But because I was lucky, or not lucky, blessed enough to find the space of glass and have that awakening, it changed my life. Not everyone is going to have the opportunity to find this niche space that helps awaken them. So that's why I wanted to brand it, because if this brand can embody that and can push this message on a little bit more of a kind of a widespread market than a niche space like glass blowing, hopefully there's a creative out there one day who is in the same space I was, trying to gain the confidence, and how I looked up at you and these artists who are making it and thought I could do that one day, and now I'm doing it. There's artists that are going to look over
Living
at TAFARI World.
You guys right here.
If this message can get out to any creatives out there in the world who are having that block and having that little creative, back and forth of if I'm going to pursue it or not, this is your message that you have to go pursue it. And whether it becomes a full-blown career or just a passionate creative hobby, you need to go create. You need to be an artist. We're all artists. It doesn't matter what form or medium. Everyone has to go and tap into their frequency.
Welcome, Robertson Stash. We are sitting down with TAFARI and Patrick, the owners and founders of TAFARI World. We've known each other for almost pretty much a decade now, eh?
Yeah, it's been a minute. I think I met you when I was 20, so about a decade.
Yeah. I remember that. It was in Southern California in the parking lot, right?
Actually, I met you in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
At Glass Vegas. Is it Glass Vegas or was it Age?
10 years ago.
The parking lot was actually picking up my first custom piece from you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's
over at Ziggy's.
That's right.
I'll never forget getting the phone call. He's like, bro, I'm on the way to Robertson's right now. He's like, I got this piece. He's going to let me pick it up in the lot, bro. It's going to be crazy. And within, I think, an hour, I was getting the FaceTime and saw Zemo for the first time.
I never forget. I called him to be like, you should cruise with me. He's like, I can't. I have class. And I was like, all right, no worries. And I FaceTimed him from the Ziggy's parking lot with the piece in my hand. I was like, bro, you wouldn't even believe it. Like, check it out.
That's awesome. So when was that? It was probably like 7 years ago, because I think it was working in California.
Yeah, I was, let's see, I turned 30 this year and I was 22 at the time. So yeah, about 7 years ago.
Yeah, before I had kids. Nice. Wow. So how do you go from a kid in the parking lot buying a pendant in Southern California to having this global recognized clothing company?
It all started in glass.
I would say, yeah,
So how did it start? Yeah, because I don't think you were starting the company. Yeah.
When I met you, actually, it's funny enough, I remember like pitching you and being like, yo, like I'm working on this company. Soon enough, I'm going to have my own sneaker line. What's your size? Like I'll never forget leaving that day with a notes list, like Matt Robertson size shoe. Like when the day I have them, I'm going to be able to gift him some gear.
Dude, the shoes are fire.
Yeah. They're
super high quality.
I appreciate it. Definitely. Everything we're doing is all custom. Really going for more of the high-end designer lane with what we're doing. Okay. But to go back to your question is, I've been an artist my entire life. Patrick as well.
Same.
Always been a creative, but I always found myself under the belief that you couldn't pursue it as an actual career. It always felt to me like a nice hobby. My parents were always very supportive of art growing up, supportive of me being an artist and being a creative, but it was never something that was any bit of the idea that you could actually pursue it as a career. It was more
Where do you think that belief came from?
That I couldn't do it?
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit mix of society and also I am first generation. So my mom's from South Africa and my dad's from Iran. And when your parents come from another country to come to America to give you this opportunity to go to school, to go to college, to have this professional career.
And you blow it on art.
And you decide I'm going to be an artist. There's a little bit of a conflict there, an internal conflict.
I could see that.
Before it was even a conflict, it was more of just a closed mind. It was more of the idea that that's not even possible. But I was always into glass. Glass was always something that I was very just attracted to and intrigued by. Being an artist, there was something about glass that just, I don't know why it connected to me a little bit differently. I think it was one, the skill that it takes to do it, but I like how niche it was. And it's something that, you really feel like there's certain, same with any art, any painter, any glass artist, there's something that you connect to. You find a certain form of work that just you feel attracted to. And as a teenager, that started with me with glass. And actually, that's when I first found out about your work. I think I was either 16 or 17. And being South African myself, coming across your work and seeing all the African animals and giraffes and zebras, I instantly felt it connected. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Who is this guy? What is this work? But I mean, at that time I was a teenager. I was 16, 17. I think I was maybe
Couldn't even legally buy a pipe yet.
No,
That was the
exactly.
fake ID time.
That was the time when we were using the IDs to figure out, what we need to get where, and
Just to like get a little oney maybe at the smoke
yeah,
shop.
just to
You
get
could-
something. But I went to college, and I went to college originally for hospitality, thinking I wanted to own a restaurant. Turns out I love food, and I'm a creative, and I like the idea of wanting to own and build something. Wasn't that food was necessarily the medium that I was meant to pursue as a career. But my passion for glass led me to end up being one of the only people from my college and my school at NAU, Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, to actually get hired at a head shop, a little glass gallery that we had in Flagstaff called Seven Wonders. And my freshman year of college is when Seven Wonders actually opened. And it was kind of like the craze around the school. It was like, if you knew what heady glass was,
Check this spot out.
finally a heady glass shop that you could go to. And I went to it. I used to go multiple days a week just to hang out, just to scope the glass.
Were you all
and
trying to like
survive.
one
And,
up each other with like a cooler piece?
Like,
I think you just wanted to be a part of the culture at that point.
I think it was more just trying to be part of the culture. I still wasn't even in the range of being able to acquire nice heady pieces. I think I was more just finding myself more and more attracted to that space. And I've always been someone who gets obsessive is not the right word for it. I think it's just extremely passionate. Once I feel connected to something, I want to dive into that space and see everything I can learn in that space and explore in that space until I feel like I either have got it or that opens another door for me. So
Nice.
at that time, I used to hang out every day at that glass shop. And eventually it led to the day that I had a buddy named Ryan, and he used to blow glass at a little local studio there in Flagstaff. And I remember one day saying like, hey, can I come by the studio and check it out? I think I was 18 at the time. Like, yeah, come on by. And I remember sitting there watching them blow glass. I was the youngest one in the room. Everyone was, either a few years older than me or substantially older than me. There was a glass artist named Beto, which was the local guy who had a little shed in his backyard, and all the local blowers would rent a space out his little
Nice.
backyard. When I say shed, I mean really like a little backyard shed. But I was like, yo, what are the chances you let me hop on the torch? And they're like, get on here. And that was it happened like that. That was my first moment hopping on a torch. They taught me how to make a little implosion marble. And I was hooked. I was hooked instantly. Within a couple of months, I had found how to, find my own equipment. I had my own little torch. All of a sudden I bought a National. Like 19, I approached the guy Beto and I said, hey, can I rent a space in your studio? And there wasn't really space at the time, but there was one bench in the corner that was just filled with stuff, like a storage kind of style bench. And I was saying, hey, let me come in here. I'll clean your bench up. I'll clean out this space. I'll pay you rent. Like, let me get in here. And he's like, hey, if you want to come through and clean up all that shit and make a space for yourself, he's like, so be it. So that was that was the entry into glass, which is actually the space that it was my awakening into actually becoming an artist. So the reason I feel so connected to the glass origin, and I always speak about it, and being here today with you in the studio is so special, is because although I'm currently in fashion design and painting and all these other forms of art, my origin art story started in glass blowing. And I will always credit, if I wouldn't have pursued glass blowing at that time, not sure exactly if I'd be where I am right now. Going back to what I originally said is, I never had the belief that you could actually create something, be an artist. And that was totally closed off to me.
You saw people doing it and you're like, hey,
The idea of actually living off your own artwork was still a little bit too far fetched.
And living even your own vision, your own life, what do you want to do? The life you want to live. I mean, I grew up in a much more closed-minded to what was possible in this life. And if you want to one day be successful, you want to one day have a family, you want to one day be well off, any of these things, you're going to have to go on this professional route. Now, hanging out with glass blowers, that broke that reality. I'm 19, I'm hanging out with glass blowers who are selling pieces for a few $1,000s a piece, providing for families, having these amazing lives, going to festivals, doing all these things that I loved. And that was my first time just, wow, you can do this? I remember calling Patrick and saying, I'm going to be a glass blower, bro. I was like, I'm a glass blower now. I was like, and he's like, I feel that. And at that time, Patrick had just acquired a VW bus.
Yeah, it had been years of saving up. We grew up together. We'd known each other since we were 5 years old. So this is kind of like a lifelong journey of trying to figure out, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to live our lives? We both went through the period of our lives where we thought being an artist was impossible. And then as he moved to Arizona, I was going to school at ASU. We were going back and forth at the time.
What did you go to school for?
I went to school for communications.
Okay.
And funny enough, now I do all the communications and social media here for TAFARI World.
Perfect.
Couldn't be more
His,
happy.
his degree came in handy, and it did something he finished. So
I'm one of the few.
yeah, my guy right here.
But yeah, at the time I'd saved up all my money and graduated high school. We're in college. I had my bus. And at the time he had just got his glass studio, and he's like, you should just take the bus out here. And at the time I was like, okay, I think this is gonna be the longest trip I've ever taken in the bus. Drove from Orange County all the way out to Flagstaff. And at that time he had just gotten his studio. I think we pulled up on the studio right from the start.
I think it was like a week or two after I got the space. I called him and I was like, dude, because he was one of the only other good friends that was really as passionate about the glass space. And I was like, you got to get your ass to Arizona right now. I just got a torch. I was like, you got to come out here. We got to.
Well, you guys said you grew up together.
Yep.
Where was that? In Flagstaff?
In San Diego. So
in San Diego.
Yeah, so we've been friends since we were 5.
Okay.
So
and then you lived out in Flagstaff for a little while.
Yeah. So a kind of short story of how we know each other is my cousin was Patrick's neighbor. So my cousin lived in Orange County, about an hour and a half away from my house in San Diego. And growing up as a kid, I would go hang out with my cousin. Patrick and my cousin were best friends. They'd always hang out in the street and skateboard together. We'd all hang out. We kind of grew up as friends, but more just kind of like friends because of my cousin.
Yeah,
and
like family friends almost.
family friends, kind of neighborhood kid friends. And then as we got older, we go to music festivals. We realize we're on the same frequency.
Yeah,
we
like,
have a song. We're like, okay,
we're boys.
We're like, we're like, all right.
We're
we're
at EDC for the first time going, hold on. This was another person who's on the same frequency, who wants to do the same stuff, who wants to go to the same sets, who wants to go to Coachella, who wants to do all these things. And
it was a quick click. So at that time I was like, yo,
fast forward 14
come out
hours
here,
later.
you know, let's get on the torch. He comes out, and that was some kind of moment where it just felt like this quantum milestone leap of being a teenager and being interested in the space to I'm now working at the main head shop, Glass Gallery in Flagstaff. I have my own torch. I'm friends with the glass blowers. I'm going to Glass Vegas. I'm going to Age. I'm working trade show booths with the glass team. I'm officially.
Did you have a glass blowing name, or was it?
So it's funny enough is my my artist name is Tafari, so I go by Tafari.
Yes.
My real name is Tyler Adibi, and the nickname that I got given was Tyler Adoobie.
Adoobie.
Instead of Adibi. So it became Adoobie Glass. So my original handle, funny enough, which then got changed into the Tafari handle, which got rebranded as now the brand's Instagram page, was originally a glass blowing page like 10 years ago. And I have some pictures. I could even, for the memes in the podcast, I could find some pictures I have of me in this like floral, big like Tarzan, like green jungle Hawaiian button-up shirt, standing over a tiny little national torch. I got my tanks up behind me.
Send me that.
I was like, I have that.
Oh,
we
yeah,
can
for
throw it
sure.
here. And I'm sitting there and I'm on the torch. I have some videos of us back in the day. Like,
making our first marbles, that
yeah, and
sort
like
of thing.
I don't even know how I convinced everyone to trust me so much. But within like a week of being in the shop, they were giving me full access to come whenever you want, turn on the machines, the kilns. I didn't even know what I was really doing. And I was trying to mess with the tanks, and I was trying to mess with the torches and the kilns. And we started pulling all-nighters where we'd put on like music sets, and we just go in there. All the glass blowers would have already left like 10, 11 p.m. midnight. And we would just go the whole night, and we just sit there, crank music, turn the torch on, and see what we could make and try. And we still have some. We have like implosion marbles
still have
and
the first
pendants and all these cool
That's
things.
dope.
But that was this wake up moment of, okay, now I'm in
do whatever I want.
Yeah, I can do whatever I
These guys
want.
doing it, yeah.
Look at these guys doing it. Look at these guys going. And that time we kind of led into summer. We started hanging out during the summer, blowing glass. And I never forget, it was 1 week or 2 weeks before school had started the next semester. And this is me. I'd finished 2 years. I'm now going into my third year of college. And I'm kind of having a lot of these self thoughts of like, what am I doing? Like, I'm blowing glass. I'm interested in this. I don't really know if I'm interested in this anymore. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, you're signed up for something. You've already invested a few years.
Of course.
Like,
I'm in there. I'm already there. I know, in all love and all respect, I know what my parents are feeling towards me in college, and they're like, proud he's there. We're doing it. I don't want to let them down, but at the same time, I'm too committed to my own vision and my own self-discovery to not follow my path. So fast forward to August, right before the semester started, for some reason, there was a week of no work on my schedule at the glass shop. And I never feel like that was what's random thing. I called the owner. I was like, hey, is this wrong? They're like, no, we have some stuff going on. Like, you're not going to work that week. And I called Patrick on the spot. I think it was like 10 p.m. at night. And I said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow through like the next like 6-7 days? He said, I got some class, some work, whatever. I was like, can you take it off?
Like,
like, well,
yes.
I was like,
Why?
He's like, why? I was like, it's 10 p.m. right now. I was like, if I get in my car when I get off at 11:30 and I'm in my car by midnight, I could all-nighter it to California by myself, be in Orange County by like 8 a.m. You be up by 8 a.m. We hop right in the VW bus and we hit the coast and we just go up and we just see what happens. We go on a journey. And he's like, down.
Run it.
I was like, let's run it. Literally packed up, signed off my shift, went home, put my dog in the car, packed a bag, and just I never forget. This was a trip where I hadn't even told anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anyone was going because I knew everyone was like, "Oh no, you're gonna go on this."
He's going on another trip,
an 8-hour drive by yourself, and then you're gonna get in a van and go. And where are you guys going in the van? And we didn't know we were going. We just were planning to like, let's just hit the road and see what happens. So I did it. Drove through the night. I never forget. I pulled up to his house. I was like on his street like 6, 7 in the morning before he even woke up. He woke up. He went to class real quick for a little mornings like course he had to take, and I slept outside in the VW bus of the class, just like in the van because I had driven all night. He got in the car and we were like, let's go. And we hit the coast. And that was our first odyssey, you could call it. I guess that's what Patrick's mom would call it.
Called them odysseys because somehow we'd be like days away from the house calling for more money and something would be up. And my mom would always say like, I don't know why you choose to go on these odysseys with your friends. Like you're always gone for so many days. I don't know where the money comes from.
We had no chargers. We had no chargers in the bus. So like there was no, so on day 2, our phones died and we just go, So girlfriends are calling, no one's answering. Parents are calling, no one's answering. We're on like day 6 of like no communication with anyone, just
entering that coast, freedom state that exists out there.
Like finding our frequency, and like each day we're like, where do we go drive? Like, do we sleep? We found a spot under the Golden Gate Bridge where we'd park our bus and go sleep at night. So we'd go under there and find a place to park and sleep and just travel around. But I'll never forget that was the turning point trip, because at one point in the trip, I think we were standing under the Golden Gate Bridge or somewhere like a.
I'll never forget you looked at me and you're like,
I'm not going back.
You're like, I'm not going
back. And he's like,
I'm like, what are you talking about?
I'm not going back where? And I was like, I'm not going back to school. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I realized that I have something else inside me. I have to go and seek. I have to go for something else. And it's not this. And, like I said, all love and respect to my parents and everyone in the college and all these things. But I realized it was clear to me, you have to go. You have to go and make your move. You have to find out what you want to do. This isn't it. I knew that I was going to spend 2 more years finishing school, 2 more years of paying for courses. Then because I have my degree, I was going to have to give it a shot. And I put at least a year or 2 into that career to see if it works.
Yeah.
And I could already see like 4 or 5 years down the road, me bailing on all that then. And I was like, I already know I'm going to bail in 3, 4, 5 years from now.
That sounds like work.
Yeah. I was like, what am I doing? So I come back and I'll never forget. I was like, okay, you have this semester. You can't just not go back next week. It starts next week, but it's officially time to wrap it up. So decide this is your last semester and start making a plan of what you want to do with your life or where this is going to go. Semester got closer to the end. And at that time, I knew it was officially time to go. So I ended up packing my bags. I signed out of my classes, my college, my apartment. Went and told the glass gallery, hey, appreciate you guys, but I'm out of here. And I ended up buying a one-way ticket to Maui and ended up just moving to Hawaii for a bit and spent some time there. And that time was really just on a soul searching, finding out who exactly I was, what exactly I want to do. I really didn't know. I just knew that it wasn't college, and I knew that there was something else out there I had to find. And I knew that I just had to go down my path of what I'm attracted to, what I'm, in tune with, and just, I had to follow that. I didn't know what I was following, but I knew that I had to keep going down this creative path. And, fast forward a few months later, we'd been going to Coachella together and music festivals all the time. And I'd started looking for a place in Maui of where I was going to be able to stay and kind of continue that little spiritual journey I was on. Mm-hmm. I went to a couple places to go see if I could rent a space, and they only had year-long leases. And I was so nomadic at the time, I had no clue really what I was going to do. It's
a big commitment.
Yeah. So I never forget, it was such an organic moment. I called Patrick and I was like, yo, I can still remember where in Maui I was and like what beach I was at. And I was like, yo, dude, I don't really know. I think I just got to figure out my next move or what's going on. He goes, well, Coachella's next weekend.
I was like, you coming or what?
He's like, you coming or what? And I was like, you know what? I was like, let me think about it. I called him back 30 minutes later and I was like, I booked a flight. I bought a Coachella ticket. I fly out tomorrow night. I was like, pick me up at the airport the next day.
I was like, perfect. We still have to paint the whole bus before Coachella. I was like, at least I have somebody else to help me.
Yeah,
I thought I was going to do the whole thing by myself. And
what did you paint on it?
So
you painted like by hand?
Yeah, we hand painted the whole bus. They had this this competition that was like, whoever paints their car the craziest gets lifetime Coachella tickets.
It was capped.
Oh,
I mean, our
really?
car was so by far the best.
Yeah.
And I think they gave the free tickets to somebody who wrote like Coachella
It
on the
was
back
weak,
of their
bro.
window and, you know, car paint. And I think that was the last time we painted it. It wasn't the last time we went. We've still gone, I mean, countless times. We love Coachella, but
But it
Is
was
it like washable paint?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's back to its original now?
Yeah, because at the time,
technically no, but it,
well, the last time we did it, I didn't actually buy the paint. I had a friend buy the paint for us, and I should have checked it. But we painted the whole bus inside of a music festival, and I don't think I cleaned it in time, so it, you know, sun stained on there. But our goal is to now repaint that and take care of it.
Yeah.
But long story short, we started painting at music festivals, and at the beginning of this, you know, when you came back from Coachella, we ended up going to Coachella that weekend together, painted the bus, showed up, did the whole weekend together. And at the time we had girlfriends, and it was just at that time where we were starting to say, okay, you know, we need to commit. We need to go this much harder in the actual
not commit to the girlfants, commit to the vision.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
to clear it up for everyone on this podcast.
Yeah.
We realize we have to commit to the vision.
all love. But yeah, you know, I come back from Maui, we go to Coachella, and that was really where it all started. That was where we really came together as a pair and said, okay, what do we want to do at Coachella? You know, we're always having visions, you know, wherever we're at, whether it's at Coachella, whether it's at home, our visions never stop. So at Coachella, we're looking at each other going, how do we turn our lives into this? How do we figure out how to be more part of this culture? How do we figure out how to be more part of music festivals? And like I said, that's where it all started.
But it still felt so far out of reach. There was still no connection
You
point.
didn't have a clothing connection to it? Or like
We
you just
had-
wanted to be a part of
we
that
had
scene?
We had nothing.
Okay,
We had literally
no
had
idea.
nothing. We're not making
But
clothes
you
yet.
just knew it was, there's a direction like we can
we sat in
go.
the crowd together looking at each other and we said, one day we'll be on that stage. And everyone was like,
yeah.
how, you're not in a band? And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, we're going to be up there though. They're like, you're not a DJ? And I'm like, I don't know. We're going to be up there though. And it was just this feeling of like, I don't know what we're doing right now. He's still in college. He's still finishing his courses. My parents are now like, what the hell is going on? Like, you're back from Maui. You're back from college. What are you doing? And at this time, I started working with my uncle who did security camera systems and like some computer electrical stuff. And he's amazing. His name's Amir. He was like, here, I help you out, you know, with a job. And I started working with him, and it was an amazing little stepping stone for me to be able to kind of grab some stability after my nomadic time of life. But it was also clear to me at that point, this idea of just doing something for work isn't it.
Mm-hmm.
I just went from being in college and glass blowing. In college, I started a fraternity. So I have all my fraternity brothers in college. I'm glass blowing. I'm snowboarding. I'm now living in Maui. I'm going to music festivals. My life's just on a roll. Boom. I wake up one day and I'm just like back in San Diego. College is done. Frat's done. Snowboarding's done. Maui. Everything's done. And I'm just like working regular day, security camera job, just doing stuff.
What were you doing for your uncle?
So I used to go up on these lifts up to the top of the buildings, and I would put security cameras in, or I'd go inside the buildings and I would run the cables through the actual
Installing
and just learn some cool stuff. You know, I had a tool belt on and I was up on the lift up there doing things, but it wasn't me, right? And it was just something I knew, like, I got to figure it out. And at that time, Patrick and I are big Deadheads, big fans of the Grateful Dead. And we had gone to, I think, 2 shows together.
Yeah.
And there was an opportunity that came up for a 3rd show, but it was a little out of reach for us. There was a local that would always come to his pizza parlor who's this old, like, middle-aged Deadhead. And he's like, I'm going to Ohio to see the Dead. Like, you guys should come with.
We were like,
And I'll forget, Patrick called me in the middle of my shift. I'm on the lift with a camera in my hand. He's like, what are you doing this weekend? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, we should fly to Ohio and go to this Grateful Dead show. I was like, with who? He's like, this like old deadhead at my work. And I was thinking like,
some rando.
it was like something. And I was like, all right. I was like, well, let me figure it out. Like, so I went in the bathroom real quick while working. I'm looking up flight tickets and stuff. And I call him and I'm like, dude, like if we send this, it's got to be like a 24-hour secret send. Like I can't tell parents. No one can know. I was like, we just got to dip to Ohio. We got to dip right back. Like it never happened. And he's like, let's do it. We go on, we buy these flights and stuff. We're like, we're going to Ohio for 24 hours. We're going to go see the Dead. Like, let's run it. Right. So we get there. And at that time I was, doing this security camera job and doing all these things probably like, I don't know, 8 months now. And I had reached a point where I hate to use the word depressed or even anxiety, but after experiencing what I experienced in college and feeling the way I did and mapping and all these things, I reached a place after that where I really was feeling depressed and anxious. And it wasn't necessarily because of the job or because it was because I was no longer living my path. I was no longer doing
solidified your vision.
Yeah, I was on creating.
More,
it just made me realize this. I can't live a regular life and not bring to this world what I'm supposed to bring to this world. It's like it's not gonna work right. So at that point, we were at the show, and I just had the most pure download ever just hit me, and it just said, "You're an artist. You have to go and be an artist. You have to go try. You have to go see what happens. You have to just go do it. Like there is nothing else." And it was so clear. I never forget. I looked at Patrick and I was like, "Dude, when I get home, I got to start creating again." And at that time, I was like, "I got to get back in it." So I got home. Next day, I went to Michael's, bought a canvas pack, bought some paints. Was at my house, started just painting every day. At that point, I still was so passionate about glass, and I was reaching out to local glass blowers in San Diego to see whose studio I could go hang out and then pull stringers for them and just do prep work for them just to get myself back into the scene. So all of a sudden I came home and I'm like full force. I got to go artist mode right now. And every day I'd like come home for my shifts and I would just paint and I'd like reach out to glass artists. I started that flow again.
Love that.
Every day I'm painting. Every day I'm calling Patrick. He's painting. We're both painting. We're FaceTime each other, showing each other our work. It just was like on a roll. And about, I'd say 2-3 months went by. And I woke up one day and life was bright again. Depression was gone. Anxiety was gone. The only thing I had changed in my life whatsoever was I started creating every day. Nothing. My financial situation was the same. My roommate situation was the same. Like nothing had changed. My jobs, everything was the same. But I was creating every single day. And I realized it healed me. It helped me in a way and healed me in a way that I didn't know was possible. And at that time, I became aware to the fact that there's a conscious evolution that happens behind creating. And it doesn't matter what form of creativity you are, whether you're a glass blower like yourself, whether you're painting, whether you're drawing, whether you're doing clothing design. When you're pulling a creativity and expression out of yourself that you didn't know that exists, you discover something about yourself. And I really believe there's a form of self-discovery and a form of evolution that we learn about who we are and we consciously evolve through creativity. And I think it's something that I don't find to be spoken about very often. There's so many different ways of how we connect to ourselves. There's yoga and meditation and religion and all these practices that, we share and we promote that help bring us into self-connection. But I really don't believe that anyone or any brand necessarily is pushing this idea that through creativity, through creative expression, we can tap into ourselves, we can tap into our frequency, and we can further discover who we are. So that was this wake up moment of, okay, yes, you like artists, yes, you like, creating, yes, you like festivals, all of these, but this is so much bigger than all of that. This isn't about the idea that like, I feel good when I paint and like when I wear clothes, I feel good. I was like, this is much deeper. This is therapeutic. This is conscious, evolution. There's healing. There's something in this that has to be spread. I was like, this idea, I didn't feel like I had ever really, felt that before. And at that time in my life, it was a transformation because I went from not believing you could be an artist or create at all, then having this awakening, like maybe, you can, but how do you do that? Then falling into this kind of, rut, you could say, of not knowing how to do that or where to do that all. And then finding that space of, okay, this is how you tap back into that space. This is how you reconnect to who you are and, find your frequency and really tap back into that space. So at that point, there's a lot of parts where you could say it was born, but that is where I really believe the conception of the energy and meaning behind TAFARI World was. It was a self-discovery of a personal healing moment that made me realize,
wow,
we gotta do this.
Keep doing this.
We gotta keep doing this, but this isn't about just healing ourselves. We got to figure out how to brand this. We got to create this into an actual brand. This has to be a movement. This has to be a mission. This has to be something that people hear about. This has to be something that we share. This shouldn't just be something that we experience and we know that we feel healed from it. We need to figure out how to do that. And at the time, I was painting and I was painting every day and the name TAFARI, it just kept popping up in my mind. I know that sounds so interesting, but there was a day where I was sitting in my room and randomly the name TAFARI came in my mind. And I thought to myself, okay, that's cool.
Is that an actual word?
So TAFARI, it is. I'll share with you the meaning of it once I kind of share how it kind of came to me.
Okay.
So the next day went by and I would think about it again. And I was like, what's this name? Tafari. Like it
Did
seriously
you
just kept
know the
coming.
word before?
Never heard of it. Never even known it. It was just
Came into your head.
came in my head. Every day it comes to my head. Like days are going by and a random part of the day would come into my head. And about 3 weeks went by and I kept thinking about this name, I didn't know what it was, why I'm thinking about the name Tafari, what even this name Tafari is. All I know is I'm painting every day. I'm feeling healed. I'm feeling awakened. I'm having this transformation with myself. I'm happy again. I'm interacting with the world differently. I'm interacting with friends differently. I'm alive again. I was like, what is this name? And one day I'm laying on my bed, just hanging out, and I just got this internal, something kept poking at me, like, you got to check this out. And some urge said, go look up African names. Out of nowhere, I just Google African names. And I started, and it was A through Z. So I start scrolling through it and I get to T, and the first one was Tafari. I was like, whoa. It felt like it was almost like discovering like a coin. So it was like, it just popped up. I was like, there it is. There's the name again.
Yeah, you didn't type it in.
No, it's right. So I click it and then it goes directly translation. And the translation of Tafari is he who inspires awe. And in that moment I read it and I just, I had chills go through my body, and I never forget. I came out to my living room. I looked at my roommates, looked at my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I'm Tafari now. They were like, what? And I was like, my artist name is Tafari. I go by Tafari now. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, and I was like, you guys don't
inspires.
I was like, you guys don't get it. I was like, we're going to create this artist movement. And I was like, I'm so fresh out of this spiritual awakening I had because of the creativity that I felt like when I had found that name, it was like, let's go. I was like, we got it. I was like,
that meaning.
Yeah, it hit for me. And in that moment, I realized that I had spent my whole life in disbelief of actually being able to become an artist. And I had now found the inner confidence and drive and belief in myself to become an artist. And now I found this name that's inspiring with that. And I realized at one moment, I was like, this is my mission. I have to push an idea of inspiring creativity. The idea and the mission behind the brand of what TAFARI World is to inspire you to create, to tap you into the frequency, to awaken your creativity. It doesn't matter if it's a personal hobby and it's, poetry at the end of the night. It doesn't matter if it's a full-blown career. It could, for a chef, it's cooking. For Nigel Houston, it's skateboarding and the way he moves his board. We each have a different way of art. We each have a different expression. And I really believe that in that moment, it was wrapped up with a bow on it. And I was like, all right, we have this idea now. We have this vision. But now what? Now what? Okay, cool.
Okay.
We have a name. But now, there's this stage.
You're narrowing it down, dude.
Yeah.
Sounds
So it's like, now we're here, but now what do we do? And at that point, I was painting every day. And
what kind of stuff were you painting?
Very
the paintings that I've seen that you've been doing, like that kind of style.
Exactly. So that same style,
it was definitely the early origin of that. And I think something
Exactly.
key to take right now for anybody listening is that your style doesn't hit you right away. Some people might think, what, I'm not a creative. This isn't something
go explore.
I don't really do.
That's that letting out that creativity.
But
you're seeing what you put down. You're like, why did I do that?
The moment you realize you're an artist, typically is not your first painting. It's not your first doodle, but creating. I think it took a year or two for you to have your moment. It took me years. I was an artist my whole life, doodling in school, starting to paint, all of a sudden I'm doodling again in college, and I made a pattern in college one day and I had my official artist moment. I had the first moment where I would look down at what I made and I went, whoa. And this internal feeling in you shifts. And I think that's something so
What was
key.
that piece?
And
you remember?
I'll show you. We'll pop it up on the podcast. But it was just this 3D geometric pattern, something I had never seen before. And I went, whoa. And like you said, when you make something and you're looking at it, you'll eventually have a moment where you say, that's really cool. That's something that I've never seen before. That came out of me.
Let's go that direction.
But it took me years to get to that point of going through multiple different styles, just on the path of creating, just like, I want to paint this. I want to paint this. I took what I liked from that painting and brought it to the next painting. And it's this continual journey until you have that moment. And that moment, like I said, it doesn't happen right away. For you, it took how many years before you went, whoa, and you had the Tafari moment. And like he said, the paintings that he's painting today are similar to what you were painting at that time, but I think
they're the refined vision. I spent the first bit just, for lack of better words, spewing, just pushing out creativity and just
exploring
what I liked. I really
worrying about really how it looked.
Yeah, no, that's the key right there is, to be able to discover your own creativity, you have to remove the self-judgment, right? You have to be able to go, okay, this it doesn't matter what this looks like. I could hate it at the end. It doesn't matter.
No one's going to see it.
It's about just, there's energy inside that has to somehow get out.
It's a learning process.
Yeah. So it has to get out. And at that point, you know, I still, like you said, I was fine-tuning my style. I was doing a lot of, you said, what were your paintings like? Very colorful, very bright, very bold, very loud, very psychedelic. But I was finding myself in a fine line of the difference between what abstract is, because at the beginning of my work, I would consider my work abstract. And I just was falling into the, you know, the genre of whatever abstract is. And the more I found my style, the more I fine-tuned it and realized that it's not abstract, and that, you know, my work as well as Patrick's work, we're creating our own genre, and we're calling our own genre of work called energetical. And that's our new theme of like what our style of work is. Are you familiar with cymatics?
Sounds familiar.
Have you seen where they take like a metal, put a speaker
and frequencies, and they do all the patterns.
Exactly. So they put solfeggio frequencies through a speaker, and they put sand on top. And when they put different frequency through, you'll see
that shit's amazing.
Create a different form of geometry, right? So what it's doing is it's creating a visual representation of the sound wave that's going through that normally we can't see, but in that form you can see it. I believe, as well as Patrick's work, and his belief is that our work is our cymatics. I believe that my paintings are a depiction of the energy I'm feeling in that exact moment of my life. It's a direct reflection of what I'm experiencing, what I'm, you know, feeling, the emotions that are running through me, the energy that I'm currently holding on to. And it's why I stand behind saying that all my pieces are completely unique. You know, as much as you can look at my body of work and come into a gallery of my pieces, and you could say, I feel that it's all connected by the same artist. It's all cohesive. You can tell it's all Tafari.
Yeah.
There's not one piece that's the same. And, you know, as much as I do admire all the artists who have fine-tuned their style and have mastered their style and become so worldly recognized that you can see a certain movement and go, I know it's that artist. I do love that, admire that. But for my own work, I really believe that
you're not locked in.
My journey is more of a consistent discovery. It's more of me finding out, okay, I finished that piece. What was my favorite component about it? And I take my favorite component of that. I make my entire next piece based around whatever that energy was. And I find my favorite thing there. And I continuously it's what helps connect them all, because there's an element, you'll see that, oh, that same zigzags on that one, and that same spirals on this one. And you'll feel the ways they connect. Yet they all feel like they're a new expression of,
definitely,
you know, wherever I am at that time.
It's almost like you're continuously chipping away at a sculpture or something. Those first couple chips, you're not going to see your style. You're not going to see what it is. But as you continue chipping away,
it develops with time too.
Eventually that thing appears, and that thing is your style. And eventually you're going to know it, because you're going to see it. And like the moment I had with the pattern, or like the moment you had, you'll know it. You'll see it. You'll feel it. And I think that's one of the coolest things. You know, I'm such a number one fan of his work. And I think one of the coolest things is, like, you see one of your most recent paintings, Matswari, or, you know, any of the recent ones, Nairobi, and you can see the energies that have carried from the beginning, from the boldness to the cleanliness to the bright colors. But if you look at some of the early pieces, you'll feel all of those same things, but you'll feel almost you were at the early part of your chipping away.
It's like the DNA. Like, you could see the DNA of what you see now. If you look at that first week after the Grateful Dead show, compared to my last body of work, you'll fully be able to see how it connects, but you'll see the refinement of where the mind's gone in that.
And I think that's something we stand behind, is just you have to keep chipping away. You're not going to see it at the very beginning. And if you're really lucky, boom, you might hit one chip and that's who you are. And we're not saying that's not going to happen for all the people who are like, oh, I see these artists.
What are you saying? I'm a giraffe guy. And now
what did you make?
No, because
what were your first glass pieces?
Giraffes.
So right off the bat,
but look at the way you expanded.
I made
look at the animals.
Yeah, like
what was
first?
Visible gas pumps and like antique looking stuff, like little oil pumps and stuff. Like I like antiquity stuff.
And the difference
developed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To add to what you're saying is, like, whether or not the giraffe guy, look at the diversity in your giraffes. You're not just doing, you're not.
It's a good theme. Like, animals in general is my kind of theme. I run with it.
Yeah. My theme is zigzags and spirals. Yeah, all my work
right now. Maybe it's going to change.
All of my
portals.
Work. You're gonna find elements like yours that connect. And that's of course what makes it. Like I said, you have to have
exactly how I do. I'm like, oh, that was cool. On my next piece, I'm gonna try that shit out.
Exactly.
Dial it in a bit more. Totally.
So that's what we kind of realized in that space.
Push it each time, and it's fun.
And that's what keeps it
on that level of like,
it keeps you excited.
art.
It keeps you excited for the next one. You're like,
That's
oh, I
the only
really
thing
liked this about the last piece. I'm going to bring this into the next one. And all of a sudden you find something in that next piece that keeps you excited. And that is the cycle that keeps you in it as an artist. And that's the most special part. I mean, when I for instance, I'm a musician, I'm a visual artist. When I make something new, I then get to take it in for as long as I, want
That's
to eat
a
it
rush
up.
too.
It's the rush of
like,
eating it up, whether it's
We sit there and do a soak, bro.
Yeah, you take it in, take it in,
like
take it in.
gratifying,
We'll have the new
dude.
paintings
It's
up.
like,
And
look what I
we'll both put a
just
chair
did.
back. And we're like 2 hours.
Yeah, we
will
hold
go
the
by.
gawk session.
We
You
do
just
our
like
gawk session. We'll just post back and be like,
just stare at the
I look at
piece
like 2 hours went by, just looking at my own painting, just like,
or listening to the song or whatever it is.
I've
you
done
gotta
that
soak
with
that
glass,
energy
yeah.
up. You know, you
soak
got
the energy up because
it
it makes you excited, and all of a sudden you feel like, okay, I took it, I got
Yeah, look at
whatever it was,
something physical is
and
in
then
the
all of a
world
sudden you
now.
take it all in, and then you let it all out on the next piece, and then you go back into the same cycle. You let it all out, and then you're like, whoa, I love this thing. You get to experience taking in all the energy, and then you feel like you get refilled up, and then it comes back out on the next piece. But I think that's one of the main things is just like it doesn't happen right
And
away.
no one ever told you that. You guys just figured that out.
I'm
own,
grateful
a
to
long
say,
way.
like we've figured out this entire journey. This has been a self-discovery of our relationship. Our relationship is what gives the space to be able to go deep. A lot of times when you're in a setting with someone, with a friend, a family member, and they can't understand to the level you're trying to take something, you feel like you reach a limit where the conversation comes to a halt because the space that you want to take it further, they're not either understanding or they're not capable or they're not interested in it. And that's okay. Not everyone's going to want to go spend hours deep in these ideas and conversations. But when you have a best friend and a business partner who's in that same space and on the same frequently, our relationship lets each other take it further. Our relationship lets each other actually go further in the vision, because when we've gotten to the furthest point of the vision where no one person will go, all right, cool. And then you kind of bring yourself back down into whatever life is. We don't do that. We keep going. And that space where we're able to keep going is where we discover how we create. So much of it is just reflection. It's reflection on our own piece, how it felt when we created that. What do we think about that piece? How do we feel about that? Does that really align with where we're trying to go? Does that really embody that? And the more that we are able to consistently discuss that and kind of just, further,
it lets us sharpen.
So further expand that space.
Sharpen your artist knife.
Exactly. So
And I think that's, like I said, it's such a huge blessing that, we're in this path and we're in this journey together. Cause like I said, I mean, I'll be an hour 2 or 3 of spewing this vision that I've had. And usually, people are going to get like, all right, cool. Like, can we talk about something else? Or can I finally say something? And vice versa. I'll sit there for 2 or 3 hours while you go off about this or that. And it might be an hour 2.5 where you finally go, oh my God, that's what we should do. That's what we should do. But maybe
like later in the day, it'll connect and we'll be like, remember we were talking about this morning for 3 hours again? He's like, I figured it out. And then we go into that place. But because there's the consistent open space between us to let those develop, it feels like it's infinite.
That's really cool.
But to bring that all the way back to where we were, that is when the idea was born. The name was taken in. I was like, okay, I'm doing art under the name TAFARI, but now how do we take this further? Because at this point, it's still painting, right? There's no close just yet.
At this point, it was just a message. I think we had finally realized, okay, there's an evolution behind art.
Exactly.
When you finish an art piece, like the thing is, like, you got to go finish something. You can't start something and halfway through, be like, okay, I'm kind of over this, because you won't download the energy that's going to take you into the next piece. And I think, at that time, that is what was carrying us and saying, okay, we'll finish an art piece. It does something to you inside. It elevates you. It helps you evolve. And at that point, we were experiencing that just for the purity of what it was, not even saying, okay, we want to brand this. We want to take it into the rest of our life. We were purely just evolving art piece to art piece, saying, okay, hold on. And as we started talking about that experience more, we started realizing, hold on, this is what we're trying to brand. This is what we're trying to bring to the world. Like the idea of, it's not going to hit you the first one. It is an evolution that you go on. The creative journey isn't day 1. It's not day 2. It's year 2, year 3, year 10 of like how deep you are in your artistry. And for us, that's what kept us going, is saying, whoa, we're already feeling this type of way about our art. How am I going to feel in a year? How am I going to feel in 2 years? And that experience of the artist evolution was when we said, okay, that's what we want to bring to the world. We first had the message. It was before we even had a vision of the first product.
Because it wasn't even closed yet. It was still just like paintings And
were you guys doing the paintings together or
separately? So we were doing separate work. At the time, he was actually still living an hour and a half away.
Yep.
But we were on the phone together every day, speaking about it, coming on the weekends. We didn't have work, trying to meet up. So it was just this kind of creative space we were in. And I ended up leaving the security camera job, found a restaurant by the beach to work at. And I was approaching one of the guys. I didn't really know at that time too much about the scene of the industry of the DJs. I knew I liked the music and I would go to the raves and I'd go to festivals. But there's an older worker who was a server, and I was telling him about what I was doing, and he said he would DJ at the local nightclub. And I asked him if he could give me the number for the guy who did the bookings for the nightclub. And I called him and I pitched him the idea of me being a live painter for his club. And I would come on the weekends and set up my canvas on stage and do a whole painting while the artist is DJing. And that was like my first little moment. He called me and he's like, yeah, we saw your work. We'd love to have you. Come on in this weekend.
No way.
And I'll never forget, I called my best friends, and two of them were working. One of them wasn't 21 yet, so he couldn't even go to the club. Patrick was working, and I was like, damn, this is my first artist moment ever, and I'm going solo. And I asked my roommate, I was like, yo, can I borrow your car? Because my car didn't even fit my paintings at the time. He's like, yeah. And I drove my roommate's car down to this club with a trunk full of paintings. And
it was actually a Mini Cooper convertible, and the top was down, wasn't it?
No. This was I drove Ryan's Subaru the first night. I was in Ryan's Subaru Forester. I was like in his Subaru wagon hatchback, and I had the hatchback open, and I had it literally just the painting shoved in there. I never forget taking my boy's car down there and parked. I called him, and I was like, all right, man. I was like, this is it. This is like the first night ever. I was like, I'm at a club. I'm about to take my paintings in, meet everyone, and at that time, I had hair down to here. I was true hippie, so I had this long hair and bright.
So brought all your paints and shit.
Brought all my paints. I bought bright, crazy.
Did you have a light spotlight,
clothes,
or did they have stage lighting?
Dude, I wasn't set up at all. I had
it was just like the club lights. It was like purple, red,
club
green,
lights,
blue,
and I was so amateur at the time that I got there and I set up my little table with all my little paintings on it and my canvas to set up, and I thought, damn, I don't even have a sign that says like at my Instagram or anything. And at this time I had my Instagram was tap into my personal was tap into the frequency. And at this time, I don't even think I had the brand's Instagram even alive yet. I still had the Glass Instagram set up. It was like still far from that.
Close. And I'll never forget after you set up.
I set up and I was like, dude, and this is the OG root of where we've gotten this thing from. I went to the bathroom and I pulled out a paper towel and I wrote tap into the frequency across a piece of paper towel and put that shit on the front of my little stand with my things. I had people coming up and like typing and tapping frequency off my paper towel sign that I'd written. And I was like, yeah, we're in here. I was like, we're in the club, baby. I was like, we're live painting. We're doing this thing. I was like, TAFARI World, like, let's run it. And I'll never forget in that night of painting and just observing the people and the art and feeling the message and the mission, what we're trying to create. It was clear to me. I was like, this is so much more than just me being some live painter or me selling a print. I was like, this is a brand. This is a brand. This needs to be branded. But what is this brand? And I was like, well, you love clothes. I was like, look at your fit. Like, you have all these unique pieces on. You love brands. You love stylish pieces. You love psychedelic clothing, bright clothing, tribal clothing. And at the time, we'd become crazy thrifters because we hadn't found anything that was in this more of like eccentric, crazy, tribal, like psychedelic hippie style we liked. And we were fusing it with streetwear brands. So we were wearing Supreme and Palace and Bape and all these brands that we used to rock a lot when we were younger that we were super into. But we were wearing them with these like silk scarves from this like Beverly Hills thrift store we'd find, and these like leopard print glasses and like velvet jacket with like the Supreme. Like we were like
leather,
these eccentric, crazy fits that made like no sense to others, but to us it made all the sense. And we were like, this is crazy. Like, where's this style? You can't buy this style. You can't buy psychedelic luxury. You can't buy tribal streetwear. Like, these feelings that we're going for, you can't buy this. And in that moment of that show, I was like, we got to figure out how we're doing this. We got to figure out how we're going to turn this into a brand and what this is. And never forget, our first product we ever made was pins. I just went home and I whipped some pins up, and it was a little TAFARI logo I'd come up with, and it was a little box logo and a little pyramid logo. And I was serving at the restaurant still, so I'd pull up to the work and I'd have on my little serving thingy, I don't know what it's called, serving little checkbook, and I'd have my pins on there, and I'd be selling to people in the restaurants. All the servers had them on theirs, and it was like this little thing. And I was like, all right, like, I was like, we can do this. I started posting up on the grass outside of the restaurant right by the water and sitting there and trying to sell my art prints. I'd hang out on my days off and I'd really just put my art up there at pins. Like this was real OG hippie shit. Like just being out there and coming to farmers markets and posting up on the grass with the drum circles and just laying at pictures of me just sitting there and being like print drop and like me sitting there with all my prints out on the
This
grass.
is in Ocean Beach, by the way.
Yeah, Ocean Beach, San Diego. For all of you guys who don't know, this is like hippie culture.
Obi.
Like during the 70s and the hippie era, this is where the hippie culture was in San Diego.
It's where dead culture was.
Yeah,
Not
it's where,
PB?
Not PB. PB's like college party, like frat,
Last time I was there, I saw a
kids.
dude whip his dick out at a bar, dude.
No.
Yeah, that's
like,
PB. It's like
welcome to
college frat kids and stuff. OB is like the hippie
That's
stoner, like psychedelic
there.
beach, and yeah, we'll take you when you come out in October, right?
Yeah.
We'll take you for sure.
Cool. Yeah, cool.
So
Take it to the restaurant.
we were like, all right,
Yeah.
we were like, we got it. This is when we were like, okay, we got to make this into something. And fast forward, I think 2 months,
Yeah.
and I was at a show, and I was in a dance circle. We're big dancers. We love to go in dance circles, and
Oh man, at the time we used to run up
dance
in the
circles,
pits.
dance battle anyone back in the day. Like, it was nasty. Like
There's
nowadays,
50
like,
imagine like
you
a
okay?
50, imagine like a 50-foot clear open ring in the middle of a crowd. You think it's about to be a mosh pit, and then it's just us two like running it up.
The ones where you like point people out and you like dance battle.
Do we have any video of this? We can use as B-roll.
We'll try to find, bro. Like
There's
now
some,
you'll
like,
see-
that was like
now you'll see me on the stage like grooving and vibing and stuff, but you won't see me dead center in the pit going crazy.
Yeah, like out here challenging people,
Oh,
and, like
big
bringing people
challenge.
into
Who
our
wants it?
ring.
No, literally, we'd come there and be like,
not even
I'd be
kidding.
like, hold my backpack. I'd be like, hold my camelback. I'd be like, I'm about to run this kid up real quick. 1 second. It was crazy. So at that point, I was in this battle in this circle, and I was dance battling this kid at and it was in San Diego with the North Park Observatory. So it was December 16th, 2018.
Yep.
Was the date that I was at this show. And I'll never forget at that time, we were trying to figure out, okay, it's a brand. What are we doing? Like, I want to know what exactly is it going to be? And it hit that night at that show. I was like, I want to create a sneaker. I was like, I want to create a sneaker and do this shoe line. And I was like, there's all these brands that run the world and all different people, but everyone wears, there's a few different sneaker brands that kind of are really running the world right now that everyone's always wearing. And it was this kind of moment where I was like, yeah, there's so many people right now silk screening a hoodie and just printing a quick shirt and being like, I have a brand. But I always wanted to figure out how we're going to take it to the next level, to where our impression of the brand is going to go that much further. And I was like, well, if we start off with sneakers, before we even go into clothes and come into that, we're going to come into the market completely different in a new wave and with the new vision, the brands be taken differently. It was just this.
We weren't like another brand with a hoodie.
Yeah. We were going to another
LA.
brand in San Diego, another
those shoes
kid.
are like designed.
Exactly. And we were like, all right, well, if we're going to try to create a brand and we're going to try to take this brand to a designer level, we can't just be like, oh, here's a silkscreen t-shirt and like everyone check out our
I
brand.
do the hard part first.
So we were like, let's go the long route, let's go the hard route. And at that time, there was just this idea, right? We're talking about it every day on the phone. Every day's going by. And we're like, we got to figure out how to do this. We have to do this. And we finally were like, all right, the only way this is going to work is if we commit 10,000% and we pack our shit. We move to Los Angeles right now. We go figure out how to start this brand. We have no clue what we're doing, right? I'm 21 years old at the time. Patrick's 22. We're young. We're just
Naive, but like ambitious as it gets.
Yeah, literally, exactly. Like naive to just knowing what it's going to take and truly unaware of any bit of this industry at all. But we're like, we're doing this thing. Like we had the drive, we had this vision, we had this passion. I could see it. I could just see it crystal clear. I was like, TAFARI World is going to be this next big global brand. I was like, we're going to infiltrate the artist space. We're going to be this creative movement brand. I said, it's going to all be, as it developed more, tap more our tribal aesthetic and all that. But it was this vision that was crystal clear. The tangible reality was nowhere near. We had some pins and we had like a couple paintings.
And maybe like 20 people who knew us.
Yeah, maybe
relative
20,
to the brand.
And the 20 people were like the kitchen staff who I was selling my pins to. You know what I'm saying? This isn't like we didn't know anyone. We were in no communities. We were in no industries. We were not known by. We were
outside of going to electronic shows every weekend. I mean,
we were just. And I forget, it was a phone call. It was one call we were on. I had done an art show in San Diego, and I'll never forget. I came home from the art show that night, and I was just like, "This isn't it. We got to figure out how to really build this into something." And I called Patrick, and on the phone, we put our phone on speaker, and we started looking for places to live in Los Angeles. And on the phone on speaker, we applied for a place. And that week, I walked into my restaurant and I said, "Hey guys, I know you guys all know about my little, vision and art with Tafari, and everyone's like, yeah, like whatever. And I was like, yeah, like I'm quitting. I'm letting you guys know I'm leaving the restaurant. I'm moving to Los Angeles.
Star of the restaurant's leaving.
Yeah, and I was like, that was like the main server running around doing the thing, and they were like, "Where are you leaving?" And I was like, "I gotta go." I was like, "I gotta go. We gotta go start this brand." And it was definitely divided. There's a couple workers there. I want to say a special shout out to Ebony. Ebony was one of my managers who was like the GOAT. Shout out Ebony. She was the GOAT, and she was like a true believer. Like whenever I'd come to work, she was always asking about what pieces were new or like what was going on in my art. She was the most like,
that's dope.
Because she was on the same wave.
She was on the same wavelength.
She was still building her career.
And I would forget, I came in there and I told all the managers and staff, I was like, I'm leaving. Like, where are you going? I was like, I'm moving to LA. I'm starting this shoe company. I was like, I'm going to be a designer. I was like, I'm going to be an artist. We're going to have this brand. And a couple of managers were like, yeah. Like, okay, cool. Like, and Ebony was like, okay, I see you. And she's like, so this is your 2 weeks? And I was like, nah, this is my last shift. I'm never coming back. And they were like, you're not putting in 2 weeks or anything? I was like, nothing. I was like, I'm gone. I was like, this is my goodbye. I'm going to have a great shift. And I was like, I'm out of here. I was like, I'm moving to LA. And I feel like I said, half the staff was like, who's this guy I think he is? And a couple of them were like, oh yeah, go get him, big dog. Like, you got this. Like, and Ebony was one of those ones. So I'll never forget that. To this day, we still talk. Huge supporter of the brand. We were speaking last week about it and stuff.
Shout out Screwball Whiskey. She's now started her own whiskey brand.
Screwball. Are you familiar with Screwball Whiskey?
Yeah, it's popped off.
The peanut butter whiskey brand.
I feel like I've heard of it.
They've blown up, but she's one of the original founders and teams on that.
Wow.
That Screwball Whiskey team. So they're amazing. They're killing it.
She was working as a server at the restaurant at the time?
She was a manager at the restaurant.
Oh, okay.
She was my manager, but she was very connected in the industry to a lot of the different restaurants and owners and managers. And she found herself in the original team in the owner's circle of Screwball Whiskey, which now is beyond successful.
It's a global whiskey brand. I mean, they've taken over out of San Diego.
That was amazing to see. But at that time we went, all right, we found a spot.
So we sent it sight unseen to LA.
We hadn't even seen the apartment. Didn't even know where it was. Nothing. We were just like, we're going to LA.
It's the right price. We're good.
I was like, I'll never forget. I was in the car with my mom and my aunt 2 days after that. And I was like, all right, here, you got to break the news to your family. You're moving to LA and you've already got a place and it's going down. And I was in the back of the car and we're like driving to some outlet mall. And I was like, hey, just to let you know, I'm moving to Los Angeles. Like, we're going to really make Tafari a real company. And they were beyond supportive. They were like, all right, let's see it. Like, do your thing. And I went and told my dad, I was like, hey, I'm moving to Los Angeles. Same thing, beyond supportive. He's like, all right. They kind of were just like, see what you got. And, we packed our stuff. We got a U-Haul packed at my place. And the next thing you know,
with all the money we had in cash, we had ready to go.
Like,
I think we went out there like $2,000.
Less than that. Like literally, I think less than that to go out there and even, I think we had maybe $1,600 or something like between us to go and be able to actually start there, get settled in, rent,
somehow get on our feet.
Somehow we literally went there with nothing. We went there basically like a joke, and we were just like, yeah, we're moving to LA. We're starting this company.
So what was the apartment like?
Oh, dude,
so everybody knows it's like studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. But what I didn't realize is that in bigger cities, there's something below a studio called a bachelor pad, and it doesn't have a kitchen. I don't really know why they call it a bachelor pad.
It's just a room, but it's just a square box, and there's a bathroom. There's like a toilet attached to it.
Yeah,
that's it. We've never seen the pad.
Yeah, there's a fridge in there and a mirror.
We're pulling up, and they did a good job at showcasing the pad, like all places do. Like the building itself was a historic building, so it looked beautiful. But it was in the hood, and we didn't know that. So
Rampart Village,
like right in MacArthur Park, like MS-13. I don't know if you're familiar with MS-13.
Oh, yeah.
So this is MS-13, owned our building and owned our block, and we didn't know that.
Oh, there's fresh tags on it every day.
MS-13 tags across our building, huge, right when you pull up to the building. So we get there, and we're like,
yikes.
We're like, we have our U-Haul, all of our paintings, our art stuff, and we're like all just excited and ambitious, didn't even know what was going on. I hadn't even seen the place, and we're just seeing crazy gang members walking around, no shirts on, tatted everywhere. MS-13 tagged on our building.
We're looking around going,
and we're kind of going,
I guess this is it.
This the building? This one we signed the lease to? All right, let's go check this thing out. So we walk in, and they said it was 400 square feet, which is already, how small that is. Turned out to be 270 square feet.
Whoa.
It was a total
we actually did our own measurements and stuff.
Damn, that's smaller than that room almost. Right?
Oh, it was a shoebox. Yeah. So we opened the door, and I'll never forget. I looked at the product manager and I said, "Where's the rest of it?"
He literally laughed.
He laughed. He's
"What
like,
do you mean?
What do you mean?" I was like,
"No, seriously, where's the rest?"
Where's the rest of it? And he's like,
"This is it.
This is it." I remember I looked at Patrick and I was like,
we basically put our bags down and said, All right.
We said, let's do this thing.
This is it.
Let's do this thing.
Look, it was cool. You looked out the window, you could fully see the Hollywood sign over across Hollywood. I mean, we could see it all. That was the saving
It was
grace.
like the funniest contrast. It was like we're in this old historical, nice looking building. We can see the Hollywood sign, but we're like in the deep part of the hood. We have no money. We have no plan. So we're like, all right. We're like, it's sink or swim time. It's drip or drown. Like there's no other options right now. Like we're either going to make it or not. So never forget. Next day we're like, all right, well, time to figure out a job or how we're going to do this thing. So I went downstairs to the property manager and I was like, yo, can I use your printer? He's like, yeah, sure. Thinks I'm gonna print one thing. Print out like 50 resumes. I'm just in there, just like Kinko's. I'm just printing. I'm just like in there, like printing. He's like,
shout out Eddie.
Shout out Eddie, our property manager who hooked us up. We used to come in and call him and be like, yo, bro, we don't have rent. Like, what's going on? He'd be like, don't worry, I got you guys. Like, Eddie's the man, bro. That was our origin story. Everyone who's helped us out along the journey, who's seen the vision and felt our vibe and been like, we got to help them get it.
We remember every single person.
We're driving around LA and he's driving and I'm in the passenger and I'm just hopping out, running into any restaurant I could. He'd be like, yo, what up? Nice to meet you. Here's my resume. Like, I need a job quick because like my rent's due in like 3 weeks from now. And I was like, we have no money. I was like, we're already signing this lease. We got to figure this thing out quick.
Yeah.
And ended up getting hired at the Grove at some like high-end fine dining restaurant that was just about to open in the next week. So I was the starting staff there.
Oh, hell yeah.
And it just somehow worked out perfectly. Funny enough, we're in you know what TLC is? You know Jungle Boys?
Jungle Boys, the hash company?
Yeah. So we're in the Jungle Boys parking lot in LA and we're like sitting there and I was like, I just got my job and we're like, we got to figure out this guy a job. We're like real bad.
At the time,
too.
I was still working at the pizza restaurant I was working at. I was delivering pizza
in Orange County.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So like Thursday morning, I'd drive back home because I was caking like $400 or $500 a weekend there. And at the time, it was better off than trying to find a job in LA that I wasn't making enough money. But eventually that almost like dried out. It was too much work. I was going back and forth from LA to Orange County every weekend. He had just got a job and finally
like a couple hours.
He's
Right?
like driving to another city to work delivery pizza on the weekends to come back and be able to live in LA.
It was a bummer. I'd like leave our apartment and be like, I don't want to leave.
For like days, and I'd be in LA myself trying to figure out a job. So it was kind of crazy in the beginning. And we're at Jungle Boys, and I'd be like, dude, you got to get a job here. At this time, this guy doesn't even eat sushi at all, like at all.
I grew up so picky. My family growing up was so picky. Like, oh my God, we were like freezer. There's food at home type vibe. And
I'm like the Craigslist king. Like, I'm like, I don't know how.
I'm the Craigslist king.
No, I'm the Craigslist king.
I'm the Craigslist king, dude.
Bro, I was saying, all right, what a Craigslist king.
We're gonna have to set up a competition.
No. I've been Craigslist king since I was like 14. Like I was like a young teenager, like slanging on Craigslist. My dad put me on because it came out, I think, when I was probably like, I don't know, like 12 or something. My dad was the OG Craigslist king. He's the real Craigslist king. So he put me on. And I was a teenager already like working people, learning how to negotiate at like a young age. And I'm like in Jungle Boys parking lot, I'm on Craigslist looking for jobs for this guy. And I was like, yo, bro, I was like, I didn't know if I say anything to you. I just pushed dial and all of a sudden I'm on the phone, set up an interview. And I'm like, yo, my name's Patrick. I'm looking for an interview. And he's like,
I was like, what is this
I
guy
hang
doing?
up the phone. I'm like, you got an interview at Rock and Roll Sushi on Sunset Boulevard. I was like, and I
remember being like, this guy's so high. I was like, this guy just called and set me up an interview.
I was like, you have an interview now? You're working at a sushi. I was like, you're working at a sushi restaurant. I was like, let's go.
Start at 9 tomorrow.
So I show up and he's like, so
your voice sounds different.
Do you think you could be a server? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right, cool, you're hired. We'll see you tomorrow. And I was like, in my mind, he's like, hands me the menu and there's like it's like at a sushi restaurant, you know, there's like 500 million on the menu. And I was like, all right, here we go. I was like, this is it. So it was great though. At the time I worked at that sushi restaurant, he would finish at 10 p.m. and I didn't finish till 2, 3 a.m. So every day he would come after work and have sushi at my restaurant. And it was kind of like the one moment of my whole day that was like, okay, cool. I see the boy. Cause we were up every day by like 4 a.m, cooking all day.
We're doing double shifts like to try and make life work.
We were working internships at that point. He was going to fashion school. I was working at a fashion showroom in Beverly Hills at the time. So all day long we were interning and then we would have to run to our jobs. And like I said, we were done at like midnight to like 1, 2 in the morning. I was coming home. I would finish work at like 3. I'd get home, but he had work in the morning. So our schedules were consistently the opposite. So we really never
at dinner.
At the beginning,
it was
we
just,
never really
I'd
saw
get
each
off.
other.
We didn't sit for a bit and I'd get off and be like, all right, sweet. Like got this little window right here where I can come through, get a sushi roll with the boy.
Slide him a sushi roll at that point.
And then I'd be asleep before he'd get home and then I'd already be gone for work before he'd be back up. So it was just kind of this alternate schedule.
It's like the one moment of the day we'd ever find.
And that was before fashion school. And like, it's funny because at that time we were just hustling and it felt like, okay, we moved to LA. We're figuring out how to live. We went from being like, really not knowing how to do it to at least we both have jobs. But now how do we make this brand happen? Like you said, we're interning at showrooms. So we're both working at fashion showrooms, just learning how to learn the business more. But at that point, I was like, I need to figure out how to get into fashion school. But I can't afford fashion school. No, nor do I really know like what that looks like. So I find a fashion school and I end up contacting them and asking them if I can speak to their director and getting the director's phone number. And I end up calling the director of the fashion school and pitching him on the vision, being like, yo, like we just moved to LA. I was like, I don't have money for fashion school, but I hear this vision about this brand, explain to him TAFARI, explain to him who we are, and just like cold call pitched this guy. And he vibed with it. And he's like, we're going to give you the whole fashion school semester for like a grant for like 1,700 instead of thousands or whatever it was going to be. I forget the exact number, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it was going to be. He's like, we're going to figure out a grant for you and get in here for 1,700. And that was this moment of like, all right, it's all starting to connect. We're finding the jobs. We're finding internships at showrooms. Now I'm in fashion school.
It was cool because at the same time he was going to fashion school, I was going into my last semester of senior year at college. And of course, I still had yet to do my internship. And it was perfect timing because right when I was like, shit, I got to get this internship, he was going to fashion school. And we were like, okay, I might as well try to get a fashion internship here. But I was going to school for communications, so none of it made sense. And I was like, how am I going to figure out doing this? And we're typing in on like whatever the internship website at the time was, like fashion,
we were hunting
PR, communication, this and that. And something popped up and it was like PR fashion showroom. And we were like,
Beverly Hills, like high-end French fashion showroom.
Mason
we were like,
another shout out.
Yeah, shout out Mason Privé showroom.
Yeah, it was the first showroom we ever actually had a connection to. And I ended up working there for probably like almost 2 years. And it was where we got, I mean, you were getting so much, understanding and knowledge from fashion school. Going to intern at this fashion showroom, it gave us insight into how the industry worked, into how, celebrities get styled, who a stylist even is. By that time, we didn't even know what a stylist was or how they worked or how they operated. And that was, like you said, it was right when everything started clicking. It was right when we really started understanding, okay, these are stylists. These are the people getting styled. We need to get our brand in a showroom like this.
I didn't even know what PR was.
Yeah, we were like, what?
I was like, what?
I'm still in my senior year of college going, okay, this is gonna have to work, thinking, I hope this works for my credits because I don't want to be wasting my time. All of a sudden I was like, is this even gonna work? And long story short, they ended up being the very first carrier of our shoes when our shoes dropped. We had our shoes in that showroom.
Damn.
They ended up helping us get a couple of our first connections. But like I said, it was more where we just got insight into the industry and where we started going, okay, this is how we're gonna do it. This is the angle we're gonna take. And at that time, you were at that point deep in the fashion school. We had just got our first shoe samples and
prototypes in.
We were on our way.
Wow.
So
how did you go from the shoe sample? Like, how did you get that? Did you find a factory or something?
The prototype, actually, this is a story to go back to the beginning is before we moved to Los Angeles, it's kind of actually a missing part. The reason we moved to Los Angeles and we were like, let's do this is because we had just got connected to the sneaker manufacturer overseas. And it was officially starting to have we started sending designs over. Officially the communication had begun. And at that point we were like, we need to move to LA. So how we found that was once I left the show, the dance circle where I was telling you that I was like, I have to create this brand. The next day I had called my mom. I was like, hey, I got this crazy vision. And she already knew about TAFARI and the idea of it and the art and everything.
Yeah.
Because I was doing the shows. But she said, I told her, I'm looking to, I want to create a sneaker company. She was like, okay. And I was like, who do you know that has do you know anyone in this world? And she's a real estate agent. She was like, well, a few years back, I sold a house to someone who is like one of the either merchandising or marketing directors of Target or, it was something that's kind of like vague relationship in fashion, random connection. And we're being like, hey, like, can I get his number? Can I contact this guy? So I contacted him. I was like, hey, you remember Vivian? She sold your house. I'm her son. I'd love to take you out for dinner. I was like, I got to speak to you about this vision, this idea. And I convinced this guy, his name was Kyle, shout out Kyle, and got Kyle to go out for a sushi dinner with me at next to San Diego State. And I think, at the time I was 21.
Yep.
And I showed up at the sushi dinner with this guy named Kyle, and I showed up with a packet of all my designs I'd drawn out, my logos I'd come up with, like materials, like everything, like full little like
Kit.
You know, full little
design
little
kit.
patterned kits,
pitch
like design kit, little tech pack, like little homemade pitch deck, like the most raw, real little document ever.
Sick.
And I showed up and I pitched him this idea and this vision, and he felt the vibe. He believed in it.
That's like what I said, what gave us the confidence to say, okay, we have this connection. Let's go to LA.
Yeah,
So
at the
he
table.
did he help out?
At the table, he picked up his phone.
Wow.
And he called someone overseas and put me on the phone. And that night, I was in contact with my manufacturer, like a movie.
Holy shit.
It was
One
like
day later.
It was like that. Literally 1 day later. It happened so quick. So, and at that point, I had just got that contact. I hadn't actually told Patrick yet because it was so big. I was
It was
like,
so gnarly.
I called him the next day or that night. I was
Almost
like
like a preface to that too. We've had so many different ideas. Like before we were going to do Tafari, we've had countless other ideas of how are we going to be entrepreneurial? How are we going to start our own business? How are we going to do this thing? How are we going to set our lives up together? So we were calling each other with visions like all the time. So my phone rings and he's like, bro, he's like, I have this crazy vision. It's already going down. I know we've had all these visions before, but like, this is the one. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, what is it? And he's like, oh no, I'm not telling you. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I'll see you in like, whatever, like 2 or 3 days.
Remember,
He's
like you have
here.
to come down. I'll tell you in person. Like we're not gonna hit this vision.
In my mind, I was like,
This
nice.
one.
I was like,
nice.
because I told him I was like, this vision is the one that actually changes the future. And like, once I had the contact, it was
real.
different. I was like, there's a factory that's currently speaking to me and taking my designs and trying to create my first ever digital renders of them. And I was like, okay, this is real. I was like, yo, come down. And I was like, I hit you in person with it. I can still see it. He walked into my bedroom and he's standing in my door and he's like,
And he literally stands back
What's
like
up?
this. He does this thing when he has a crazy vision where he puts his hand together and he kind
I'm
of
like,
it
here
was
it
like
is.
this, and I was like, oh, here it comes. And he's like, we're starting a shoe company. And I was like, let's run it.
And I was like, I already got the connect.
I was like,
We
okay.
already got the manufacturer. He's already working on it. He was like, really? And I was like, yeah. He's like, holy shit, let's
Also,
do it.
all connected. You know,
And-
like I said, we had the vision of the message before we had the vision for what the brand was going to be that was going to carry the message. So we were kind of like, okay, what are we going to do?
We
How are
needed a
gonna-
vehicle.
How are we going to bring this art? How are we going to bring
Not
this
just
message
a
to the
silk
world?
screen
we
hoodie.
needed a vehicle. We had this message, this vision, and this whole idea, but what is going to take that out to the market? What is going to get it there? Me just producing paintings, not everyone's going to go buy a painting or be attracted to my art or want to buy a print. Like that's not going to take this global movement out there. That's not going to be like, what is it? And in that moment, I was like, okay, this is the vehicle that's going to get us in the position to be able to share the message like we are right now. I was like, this is going to be what's going to actually take it to the point where there is
Everybody wears sneakers. Like
there's
we
something
know-
going on where like there's actually a message and a mission that we can go share. So that was the like, all right, we gotta get to LA. Now we're in LA.
I was gonna say, fast forward back to where we were, fashion school. We're
We
getting our
have
first
this sneaker
samples.
box, and I'm a size 13 foot, and it's Patrick's a 9. A sample size for a sneaker is a size 9 because they don't want to make it too big or too small. Have something right in the middle. So it's cool because Patrick's wearing all our samples and he's stunting
Always
and he's like
vibing,
fresh fits
always
on. He's got
stunting in the fresh
5
fits.
colorways. He's dripping. He's vibing and stuff. I'm sitting here wearing my.
I think you had like green.
I had, like,
they were fresh. They were
Asics. I
like
had
fresh
like-
green, like crossover Asics.
And I remember being like, every day I was pissed because every day this guy was dripping and wearing
I'd walk out in my
wearing the
fresh fit, wearing the
sneakers,
kicks,
wearing
like,
the prototypes, and everyone asking us at the showrooms and stuff like, yo, what are those sneakers? And we're like, it's our brand, check it out. But I don't even have them, So I'm like, yeah. And there was this big fashion event that was
a
going
fashion
on.
show.
Were they like the same samples of the ones that
Yeah, yeah.
you got now? Okay,
was just
so
a-
you knocked
yeah.
it, you got the right design right off the bat. Kind of.
It took about a year and a half, almost 2
Did
years.
you get
of
any
sampling.
samples? Was there some
Yeah.
samples that were different than those?
Dude, we tweaked the shoe 18 times.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It went through 18
We went through
different rounds
18.
of sampling.
We had shipped to us, I think, 5 different rounds of samples. And each round I would tweak it a few times, and then see even from videos and be like, keep tweaking it. So finally we have the sneaker. This is V1. We have an opportunity for a huge fashion event coming up with a showroom. And this is our first time to really like go flex the brand and introduce people and be like, yo, what up? I'm Tafari or Tafari World. Check out the
We're about to be
brand.
out in LA downtown at a fashion
Like
show.
high-end
Our first real
artists.
fashion event.
And we had somehow gotten
It was LA
charged to
Fashion
like
Week,
work
yeah.
backstage with the runway show and be like styling the runway.
It was
the
like
models. So
it was a couture fashion show. So all the girls were coming out in like couture level dresses, fully done up hair. And at the time, like you said, he didn't fit in the kicks, but there was no way he was about to show up to this specific event not in the kicks. And I'll never forget being in our little shoebox apartment, and he's sitting there and he has the shoes in his hand, and I'm like,
Did you cram your
What-
13?
I
What
put
do
my
you do?
size 13 foot.
Literally the whole.
I ballerina tucked that thing, bro.
The
and I-
shoes were like this, bent like.
Oh my
the shoes were like this. My feet were like that. And I shoved my foot in there. I laced those fuckers up. And I was like,
Sent it.
let's go. And I did a full fashion show that night like this. Like on my feet like that.
It's
God.
so funny. I remember, like, for some reason, they put us in charge. Like, there's always that person right before the girl walks out on the runway who's making sure they're like perfect, dialed in,
Last
dialed
minute
in.
styling.
And all of a sudden, they're like, "Yo, Tyler, Patrick, like, you guys got to
Your
go.
foot's bleeding.
You guys got to go
We're in
stand
there.
Yeah, like your foot's bleeding. No, like, you guys got to go take care of like right when the girls walk out." So I remember him with his like crunched feet. We're like, even the girl, they didn't need any help.
And they're
like,
in
already
couture,
perfect.
like they're in nice going. We're in like straight like streetwear, like drip fits, and they're looking at us even thinking, who are these guys right now that are like our stylists? And we're there like with the fits on, just like, yeah, come on over, like chest up, take a deep breath, let me fix your collar. On the runway, go. And we're just sitting there, just putting people out
Looking
to
at
the
each
show.
other laughing. I mean, I
We're
think
like-
that was one of our first moments. And now when we have moments all the time, we're
That's
looking
pretty cool
We
job.
always look over at each other
Yeah,
when something's
we were like,
happening.
all
We're always
right.
like, "Oh shit!"
It's kind of the moments where we're like, I was like, how do we end up here? Like how?
and people are looking at us like,
They're
"How
like,
did they end up
how
here?"
did they end up here? We're like, how did we end up here? Yeah, we're the guys. We're like LA runway, like
Collar
LA fashion
flickers.
week.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
I was
You're
walking,
good.
people who looked already done perfect. And I'm just like straightening nothing. I'm like patting something, and I'm like, you look good, chin up.
No, at
Let's
the
go.
time, at the time, we had before we had ever had clothes, we had matching velvet Palace jackets, and he was in his blue Palace jacket, and I was in my red one at the time, and we were in matching velvet Palace jackets, and we're like the
Everybody's like,
guys
who
who were like,
are these guys?
yeah, that was our first fashion moment. But yeah, that was the first time you really actually put the kicks on and wore them out, and
Yeah, and then
what a
I guess you could say at that point, that timeline kept going, prototypes to keep developing the brand. But then it reached a time where, okay, production is here. It's time to go. It's time to actually do this thing. And right as we push production, we send over the money. It starts. They've told us the factories are good. We're on it. Everything is in motion. COVID happens. All the factories shut down.
Oh,
Everything
fuck.
shut down. Everywhere global shut down. The supply chain shut down.
all our money's up in the air. We've already
Everything
sent
just
it,
goes
yeah.
on hold.
Whoa.
And that was a crazy time because we were in limbo. We didn't know what was going on. No one knew what was going on. I mean, the world was in limbo. No one knew what was going on. No one knew COVID was going to be years. At that point, everyone
Let
was
alone
just,
like shipping packages.
let
Yeah,
alone like
from China.
customs and ports and international, all different places. We had stuff at that point coming in from all over the world from different ports. So it wasn't just, it was like,
Okay.
so it was just a logistical battle
Yeah.
at that point. We were just
shipping in
like,
general.
yeah. So at that point, we were like, okay, what do we do right now? And, we were living in Los Angeles and LA, I hate to say it, was really going downhill at the time. The homeless epidemic was going on, just getting worse and worse. COVID, because everything was closed down, was, and the beginning, remember the beginning of COVID,
Oh, yeah,
it was like a
scary.
zombie land. Like,
Yeah.
if you were outside, it felt weird. You
Yes.
were like, I shouldn't even be out here. Like, it's like,
Everyone's just peeking through
no
the
one even
blinds.
knows what's going on. So we entered that time of life. Factories are on hold. Everything is at a pause. And we were like, all right, what
What do we do?
the hell is going on right now? And at that time, we were like, well, maybe we had passed our lease to the point where we were officially month to month. We didn't even know when anything was going to be open. And my family's from San Diego, so we were 2 hours away. And we just decided, why don't we just like go back to San Diego right now and kind of just
Escape this.
chill, escape LA and all the craziness up there. It was like zombie land at the time.
At that point, we already had the ball moving. We were already in motion. Leaving LA for us at the time wasn't going to hurt us. Before that, we needed to be there. We were still developing connections, going to school, these internships. And we'd finally reached a point where the ball was officially moving and COVID hit. And we were like, okay, are we just going to sit around here?
We can't go to the internships. They're closed. We can't go to fashion school. They're closed.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like,
What are we doing? Yeah.
real support.
And
too.
we were-
You're with
and
your
we were
family.
driving-
It's scary times.
And we were
Like,
driving Uber, bro. So
You
we
were driving Uber?
That's
that
how we were
point-
surviving because we'd skip that part of the story, but we'd eventually both realized that to do fashion school and internships, we couldn't work at restaurants because it was interfering with
timing,
like fashion
schedule.
opportunities and runway shows and things. So we both started doing Uber. So we were Ubering and Lyft at the same time, like full time, like morning to middle of the night, going crazy, both working, I don't even know how many hours a day while doing fashion internships, while doing fashion school. Like we're so spread thin right now. Now COVID hits and we're driving Uber with K95 masks on,
That was when they were trying to like put plastic up in Ubers.
Oh yeah,
it was
crazy.
spooky.
I saw like saran wrap.
Yeah,
exactly.
Bro, like, people are getting in there with like fish bowls on their heads. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And,
What are we doing?
Especially in LA, I'm sure you saw
My
some
parents are spooked. They're like, how are
people
you
had like
still doing
snorkels,
Uber?
like, you know, people had like crazy things that like they didn't even know what's going on. You feel me? Like everyone's like have like random things on their heads. Like people put bags on their heads with like eye cut holes, and you're like, what? Like,
We used to drip
That's
so
wild.
hard as Uber drivers though. Like we used to
It
like
was
have
crazy
crazy
fresh.
fits on in Ubers, like because we knew it was like the beginning of our company. People would get in and be like, yo, who's this guy? Like, yo, why are you wearing those crazy
you'd be like
glasses?
pitching them
Like,
on the company. and
every-
I'd have like my
every
arm
single
back,
person.
and I wouldn't even looking at the road. I'd be like back there just telling them the vision. I'd be like, yeah. You're talking about the brand. They're like, look at the road, bro. I'm like, hold on. So COVID hit. We moved to San Diego. We're like, let's go back and kind of try just regroup, settle in for a second. But then COVID continued, and the factory stayed closed, and it was just kind of this like, dude, what's even going on? COVID got so bad we couldn't even do Uber anymore. So at this point, we're like, because it was like
Why?
sketch. Like it was like,
they kind of stopped it.
They
It
kinda
was
like-
when they said nobody can go outside anymore.
and it
was
wasn't
like,
rides anymore because everyone is so afraid to even go out.
They
That
were
there was the
Ubering.
couple every like hour or two, someone would show up with like a contraption to get in the car, but like no one wanted to Uber anymore. So,
Oh yeah, people were just inside.
Exactly.
so it felt like everything hit a halt, like everything. And we kind of just were like,
this is crazy. We're like, we put so much time and energy and effort. We've already spent years.
we've already
in
got
LA, we're already
investments.
packed.
We've already figured out how to get the product. We were like, now everything is just stuck.
This episode is sponsored by Mood Mats. Man, what a great product they are. They're made from 100% recycled wetsuits. Mood Mats are essentially coasters for your rigs. They keep the mess levels down when you're dealing with sticky, shattery, wax, oils, and concentrates, all of the above. They do a ton of collabs with lots of artists, musicians, all sorts of interesting people. It's a great way to expand your brand. So if you are a small business or an artist interested in expanding your reach, hit them up at moodmats.com or on Instagram at moodmats. Here, pass them all. I can handle it. Ah! Thank you guys for sponsoring the show. Now back to the episode.
Finally, one day we wake up, we get a call saying, hey, factory's back on. Thank God, but it's still going to be months to produce and finish your stuff. Then they produce it. Then customs decides because of COVID that they're going to hold our stuff for like over a month. And like our 1 month shipment ended up becoming 2 or 2.5 months. Then because of COVID and because we were a new brand, they wanted to do some special inspection on our shipment because it was the first time this brand had brought products in before, and we had brought in a lot of products. We were bringing in 2,500 sneakers at the time. So we had crates coming in with kicks, and they decided they had to do an inspection. They ended up dropping like one of the crates when they're doing it and smashing a bunch of our products. So now we're dealing with like, we haven't even got the product yet. We're months behind. We're getting calls from customs saying, hey guys, like a bunch of your boxes and stuff are fully smashed. Like that, something happened and we dropped container, whatever ended up happening. So we're young entrepreneurs trying to figure this thing out. We're trying to figure out how to juggle all this stuff.
Bro.
I'm on the
Every
phone with
moment.
brokers,
Against all
trying to
odds.
learn how to talk to
There was
brokers.
no ChatGPT at that point.
there was
no help.
There was nothing. I didn't have. I was figuring all this broker stuff myself, talking to customs and ports and logistics, and I didn't know what I was doing at all. But I was like, we got to figure this thing out. So I'm on YouTube watching stuff about imports and trying to figure out how to be a broker. And we're really just trying to figure out how we get the product even into our hands. At this point, we're like, we just got to land this product right now.
Yeah.
So then finally we land the product after all these months. And what is it? The hype of Trump rallies, of Black Lives Matters, of
Everything. It was COVID. It was the presidential rallies. Everything was popping off politically at the time.
it was when excuse me, I'm forgetting the name, but it was when there was the someone had got killed by the police. And, George Floyd. During George Floyd. So we just got our products in. The streets are rallies. They're rioting. They're like downtown breaking windows of
Even in
stores.
San Diego,
They're going
which is
crazy.
Yeah, it went
relatively
crazy.
chill.
Political
Yeah,
rallies
so-
are going crazy. George Floyd rallies are going crazy. Black Lives Matters rallies are going crazy.
Uh-huh.
And at this point, we're
We are
sitting
like
here
a brand
like
new brand, just trying to figure it
brand
out.
new brand, and we're like, what do we do right now?
Who
like
do we reach out to?
So
We're
going in a new
our
world.
first month, we're like paying for sponsored ads, and like all people's Instagrams are like riots and all this crazy stuff. And then you see a random sponsored ad for like a new brand being like,
Skip.
hey, come check out our new luxury brand. Check out our sneakers. So crickets, of course, right?
Yeah.
Then we're using the showroom to try and contact artists and clients who we had already built relationships with. Like there was a different stylist who said, hey, we're going to get your products lined up for this artist and these people so that when your product lands, we already have it going to the celebrity. So we had a styling lined up with who was Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, we had Eddie
a couple
Murphy.
other like crazy high level clients that their stylists had already decided that they liked our product and they wanted to get a gift for their celebrity,
This
their
was
artist.
just kind of tapping back in. This is like, we're at the fashion internship at the fashion showroom. A stylist would come into that place. We had like 10 different designers at the time in the showroom, and the stylist would come and say, hey, I like these pieces. I want them for Eddie Murphy. We would rent them to you at that point. You would have the Eddie Murphy moment. The stylist would get the clothes on them. Then they would bring them back. And that's kind of like how those showrooms operate. So just give a little background on like what type of showroom this even was.
They just rent them, eh?
Yeah, so they're
rent out clothes
PR
for
styling
money.
showrooms. So let's say an artist lands in a certain city. If they're connected to that PR agency, their stylist would come in, or their team would come in. Their stylist or someone at the actual showroom would help show them the different collections. And they'd say, hey, our artist is going to be at Coachella this weekend. We'd love to pull these pants from this designer and these shoes and this fit. They use it for the event. They get the content. And then they bring the pieces back. And that's how a lot of the high-end styling works in this
With
industry.
still red wine on it.
There was all sorts of stuff like that.
Usually
for-
obligated to fix
Keep
it,
that
but
one.
typically
You
the
gotta buy that
stylist would
one.
just bring it back. And at the time, I was the intern bringing stuff back and forth to the laundromat.
It also depends on like
Eddie
the,
Murphy.
it also depends on like the caliber of the stylist. I mean, the caliber of the
I was like
artist.
dropping boots off to like Ariana Grande, and like it was
Really?
like all these crazy.
We somehow
moments
found
that were
ourselves in the mix. Like we had gone from like I said, 20 people knowing about us to delivering fits to Ariana Grande, and we're over here styling some pretty big artists. And we're obviously
Our
like
shoes are just
the
sitting in that
co-stylists,
showroom.
but they're sending us to go do delivery. So we're meeting the teams. We're, hey, what up, guys? Like, here's your kicks for this.
It was like the first artist
What
teams
was it?
we were ever meeting.
Beyonce's. What was it? I think you dropped off for Beyonce at one point.
His address.
It was
Holy shit.
crazy.
Christina
We were like-
Aguilera, all these artists that we're dropping off fits to. But that was just kind of give a little bit more background into like how these showrooms even operate.
But we become friends
yeah.
with the stylists because we just boy out with them and become homies and then be like, check out our brand. And eventually got to the point where they were like, hey, we actually like your brand. Could we get some of your products?
Yeah,
for
the
this
stylist would
artist?
walk in and I would literally
that's-
take them to our section. I'd
that's
say,
dope.
hey, yeah, you're here to style this or that. I'd be like, oh, you know what? Come check out. This is actually my brand here. And they'd be like, no way. Like this
Is your brand?
We take them right to our shoes
Yeah, I guess so.
before I showed them anything else.
Such a plug, dude.
But
to work
because
there.
of COVID is everything stopped. So all the clients we had already organized, we had shoes. We sent them out to Eddie Murphy's team. And they called us and said, hey, he's turned off
events
all
are
his,
canceled.
but he's turned off all his gifting because of COVID contamination. We're not accepting gifts. Then that started happening with all the artists we had
Holy
alreed spent
shit.
all the time building
All the
relationships.
hard work. All of a sudden,
Contamination.
literally,
Remember when
bro.
you're washing your fruit?
Yeah, dude.
Like people were like washing boxes
Yeah.
from the grocery
No,
store,
it's
like rinsing
insane.
them.
Yeah. So it was that. It was like all the work we had set up, all the relationships we had built to be able to get the sneakers and right away start moving the company and promoting it, all got put to a halt. They were like, you're not gifting anyone. We even, funny enough, we had reached out to this one stylist we had always wanted to work with and we had a relationship with. We're like, hey, we finally have our kicks in for these artists that we had lined up. And she hit us with like, I can't believe in a time like this, you'd be trying to push your brand. And so we started getting with some like real.
all of a sudden we were like, okay, like
All of a sudden we were like,
that.
okay, like we actually have to
pull off.
pull off and almost take a break because we're not getting negative feedback saying like, yo, what are you guys doing trying to push this brand in a time like this? And we're like, oh, I feel that. But like at the same time, we got this product. We got to do something. So that was a big moment for the brand where we had to decide, okay, we believe in the future of this brand, the longevity. We have a vision for where we want to take this. We cannot start scrambling right now just because the world isn't ready for our brand. We have to take a step back. We have to hone in on what we're doing. We have to figure out how to further develop the brand, work on prototypes for the future, the identity of the brand, the aesthetic, the campaigns. We're going to use the next year while COVID's popping to rather sit behind the scenes. Yes, we left the website open, but we weren't marketing. We weren't pushing it. We didn't even have a space to promote it.
Did you have any other products besides shoes?
At that point, it was just sneakers.
Maybe the couple extra pins we still had left.
Yeah,
If
but
anything.
I don't even think those on the site. So it was just, so we were sitting there with like 2,500 sneakers with no way to move them and no idea really how it's going to work. With the idea that we're going to start doing clothes, but we also knew we got to sell some shoes so we can fund the clothing collections. But now we're sitting here like, well, I think we just need to start clothes right now because we have to get more awareness. And right now, if you walk outside and someone wears a Tafari sneaker, you might think it's a cool sneaker, but you might not know it's Tafari. So the brand awareness isn't hitting. We need someone to walk outside and read Tafari be able to actually start to spread that and sort of market it. So at that point, we were like, okay, we got to figure out how we're going to develop more products. So we spent that year developing. Kind of COVID was on. We weren't working. We were kind of just figuring out.
Studio at that point.
Yeah, we figured we were just painting every day, just spending our time painting. Luckily at that time, shout out unemployment. We got unemployment cards and it would let us fund an art studio. So we used our unemployment at that time to be able to go, okay, well, at least let's figure out how to get an art studio with it because we didn't know how else to paint. So luckily we were able to use that to create paintings and in that time start pushing our art. So we're working on paintings. We're figuring out how to like just position the brand. So when the market's open again, what we're going to do with it. Fast forward to now it's 2021 New Year's going into 2022. And that's officially when they decided that the clubs are going to open.
Kind of just
and just a little bit of time, like a couple bars were starting to trickle open and we were like, all right, we got to figure out like,
we got to get out there.
We got to figure out like how we're going to do this, how we're getting back there. What are we doing? We really had no idea what was going to go on. But at that time we had recently connected and met one of our now really close friends who's part of the Tafari tribe, one of our brothers. His name's Kwabi. We met him and had a good kind of connection with him.
Met him in a teeny little club in San Diego.
Teeniest little like, I don't want to call it a dive bar because that gives it like a pretty shitty rep, but it was like mix a club, like an EDM club with a dive bar. So it's like a tiny little like
shout out Avenue,
tiny little mini little bar with a DJ deck in it. Yeah. And we went there and at the time I knew a girl who was bartending there and she was like, hey, you guys should come out. And we were like, all right, like bars are just open again. We came through and we met Kwabi. And it was one of my buddies, and he was like, hey, at that time I had a Tafari prototype t-shirt on that I was trying to make. And he's like, oh, and Kwabi's from Ghana. So he walked up, he's like, oh, I love this shirt. Like, is it African or what is this? And I started telling him about the brand, how I'm South African, and we connected. And he texted me that week, and he was like, hey, I'm DJing at the little spot you were at called Avenue this upcoming Friday. And I'll never forget, I FaceTimed him, and I didn't even know him at the time. We weren't even friends. And I was like, hey, would you want to perform in a Tafari t-shirt? And he's like, sure. So we quickly ran down the street, quickly printed a little shirt, like a little Gildan, just grab your little blank shirt, put a Tafari logo on the front, ran to this kid's house, gave it to him. And we went to the little club that night. And as small as it was, as, you know, early and just beginner as it was compared to
the first chip out of the sculpture.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was a moment where we sat back there and we watched Kwabi mixing in the shirt and a light bulb went off. Wow. And we went, hold on. Our whole brand is about inspiring creativity. Where's our inspiration come from? It comes from music. We film most inspiring music festivals, you know, DJ shows, whatever you want to call it. We get our inspiration to create from music. And now we're standing there watching the person who's up there mixing in a Tafari shirt, and the entire venue is looking at the one person, filming the one person, and it just hit. And we were like, this is our new lane. Yeah. We love this industry. We love electronic music. We've been going to raves for years. We're going to EDC, Coachella, like any event, local events where
DJs are your canvas.
We're in it. And then we, in one moment, we were like, this is our avenue. We are going to start working with artists and I'm going to start styling these DJs. And we're going to get to the point where we have all these artists performing in Tafari World gear. And not only is it going to align the brand with the artist industry, which the brand is all about art and creativity and music and everything that is, but it's also going to be the best marketing plan because it's going to be for exposure. Everyone's filming one guy. Everyone's there to see one guy. All the cameras are on one person that night. And that was the very beginning. It was like, okay, what do we do from here? And I'll never forget, probably like, you know, a month or two later, we have a couple friends running around the scene in PB wearing Tafari shirts. And I'm back at this little bar called Avenue. This was like this one summer, 2022 summer, we were there all the time. And I'm in the urinal using the bathroom, and some guy behind me is like, yo, are you Tafari? And I was like, yeah. I was like, can you wait? Like, I'm taking a piss right now. And he's like, yeah, bro, we got to talk to you. And I was like, give me a minute. He's like, dude, all right, we got to talk. Who the hell is this guy trying to talk to me right now? I was like, bro, relax. He's like, can we step outside of the club to go talk? And I was like, you're telling me I got to leave the club and go outside? I was like, for what? And he's like, let's talk. Okay. So we go talk to the bouncer. Yeah, we can get back in. Cool. And we're on the street. And I was like, so what's up? He goes, I'm working with this music festival. We know all about you and your brand. And we've seen some like people like DJing in it and stuff. And we'd love to have you guys come and do a full pop-up expo at our music festival. And I was like, all right, that's for us. We were like,
at the time,
no way, like we're gonna have.
I mean, we're getting like chills at the time.
We're
Like,
gonna
no
music
way.
festival, like what? So I was like, for sure, get this guy's number, and I'm like, all right, cool. But he wants us to have a full pop-up booth that we're like selling and have a whole Tafari display. But we didn't have our products yet
I
because
was gonna say we didn't have enough product for that.
well, we had sneakers and no shirts or anything else. And we were like, how
We
do
were
we
printing shirts at the time
How'd we
for our
do it?
friends, like in the moment.
Yeah, like on the
you want,
spot.
you want one? Okay, we'll make one for you.
But
Did you have a screen printer?
we just had a local spot in San Diego that
Okay.
we could go to,
Yeah.
and had worked out a deal with them to go and just quickly print stuff. So
Yeah.
we'd go in there and just run a print real quick. And at that time, we had started our prototypes for our first clothing collection, but we were still far from it. And he's like, yo, I got this festival coming up in a few months. We'd love to have you guys do it. And I was like, our prototypes are going to be here around that time, but it's not product to sell. So what do we do? So we hit him up. We went to this lunch with them. We sat down at a restaurant. And they pulled up with a pitch deck, and they have this whole thing. They're pitching us for their festival. And we were like, damn, this is official. Like, all right, like
Here we are sitting at this lunch.
Here we
by
are,
the
like,
ocean, oh, here
all
we
right,
are.
here we are. We're officially talking like festival owners. We're going to do this thing. Like, and I never forget saying like, hey, so we aren't ready just yet to have this full booth you want, but we're artists. We have a VW bus. How about we roll the VW bus into the music festival in the very center? We put it like at the front of the main stage, just right in the pit. And we live paint the whole bus for 3 days for the music festival as a live art expo. And they were like, done, run it. Let's do it. We were like,
Yeah, it was sick. It was
sweet.
super
We were like,
sick.
all right, here's
We're
our
like, okay, you guys are gonna give us free wristbands for the festival. Like,
we were like,
is
we
that-
have free access for the festival.
gonna
That's all
be
we
in
were
there.
worried about. I didn't pay. We're like, we're gonna get free tickets, and they're like, yeah, you'll get free like artist bands or whatever. Like you'll be good. We were like,
all right, cool.
let's
We're
do
there.
this thing. All right, sign us up. So, a few months goes by, we get the bus ready.
Was this in San Diego?
This is like an hour and a half outside of San Diego.
Okay.
But based in San Diego.
But San Diego
basically.
community, San Diego artists are going. It's kind of that crew. And I'll never forget, we drove out there, we set up. I think we set up on Thursday, and the festival was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And on Friday morning, I got a message or an email saying that our prototype box had just landed back in San Diego, an hour away. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, our prototypes are here. I was like, we're painting the bus. And I forget, to be honest, I forget who I called. I forget if it was Tiff, my sister, or who it was, but there was someone that was coming to meet us at the festival on the next day because they weren't part of the setup crew. And I called them and I was like, you have to go pick up this box for me and you have to bring it to the festival. And they showed up to the festival with this box of prototypes. And we went over, again, I've been met a couple artists already, and one of the artists was vibing with us. And we were like, hey, would you want to perform in Tafari shirt? And he's like, oh, I'd love to. So we walk over, crack open our prototype box, and we rip out a prototype. And we're like, here, like, get up there. I'm not kidding when I say within a few hours, the whole festival, like all the artists who were there were like, what's this brand? We're like, come to the prototype box, pick out a shirt. Bro, by the end of the night, every stage, every artist would bring a Tafari shirt. Just organically, like pull out a box, rip their shirt off and put it on. And we were walking around like they just put little artist bands on us. We're going in the artist trailers. We're like hanging out backstage. We're
like
on
the
stage.
stages for the first
This
time.
is like a moment for us 'cause we're young and we're just like, this is.
We've always been in the crowd, and now we're on the stage with the artists.
And they're wearing our shirt, our prototypes. We're like, this is crazy. And we're live painting the bus and we're just running around vibing. And we were like, that was our first little moment where we were like, okay, this is
so
this
cool.
is the path is we're aware of what we want to do now and how we want to go. And
that was when we got the connection to do the John Summit shirt.
oh yeah. So
that was
John,
really where it all
John
started.
Summit, for any of those who don't know who John Summit is, he's a pretty large electronic artist in the scene right now who's currently, he's been crushing it the last few years. And at that time is when he was really starting to come up. Like the whole hype of the scene was like John Summit. And for America, at least, the whole hype was John Summit, John Summit. And I met someone at this festival called Cosmic Gardens. This was the festival we did the live painting at. And she had done flute on a track with John Summit. And I was telling her, I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to connect with him, this and that. And yeah, 2 weeks later, one day I woke up to a DM from John Summit that said, hey, I heard you're trying to get a hold of me. And I was like, yeah, I am. Would love to fit you, this and that.
Crazy. I get the chills.
I remember being
it was
like
the craziest.
It was like
moment.
this moment where I thought it was like, no way.
He shows me the phone. We're like, oh my
I
God.
ran to his room at like 7 a.m. I was like, bro, John Summit DM'd me. I was like, he wants to get fitted. Like, we got to go meet up with him. So I think it was that week or either a couple days later, that week, whenever it was, we headed out to go to Vegas to meet him. And that was going to be the meeting him and fitting him for the first time. And it was just going to be like this moment because we had just gotten to this little festival, but
It's
now
like
we're
right before the show or something, or
this is
Or was it just a meeting?
No, at his show. So his show was at, I think it was at
One of the pool parties. There.
Encore.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was Encore. I know it wasn't at the Win, but it was Win Encore. It was, I forget which exact show it was, but it was one of the rooftops that he had been booked at. And we showed up to the rooftop. We met him. We met his crew. We were in the booth with them. We had the whole show, and the show ended. And he's like, yeah, come with me back up to my suite. So him, me, a couple of the buddies, a couple of the girls are in the booth. We all go back up to his suite, start partying up there, hanging out. I'm telling him about the brand, brought some clothes for him, gifted him some pieces. We partied together for a few hours, and then he flew out that night. He had to take a red eye because he was going to Florida for SMF Tampa. And he was like, yeah, I'll rock this tomorrow. Yeah. And we're kind of like,
We'll see.
And next day we drove home from Vegas, and I'll never forget, we got back to San Diego, and that night we were going to go into a club and fit a couple local DJs at a spot. It was actually the club. It's called Spin and Nightclub. It was the club where I used to live paint at. So it was kind of like a little full circle. I was like, we're going to come back to this club. We're doing fits here. I used to live paint here. And on the way to that club, we look at our phone and John Summit posts, and his main stage, SMF Tampa, like 40,000 person crowd, and he's just wearing the shirt.
Huge crowd.
And my phone just starts blowing up with people, like messages, people. We start getting some orders in. It was like this little burst that happened.
Wow.
And by the time I showed up to the club to do the fit at Spin Nightclub, all my friends and everyone there were like, we just saw John Summit wearing the brand. Like it was this like early moment in the career.
It was like a night for San Diego.
Moment.
Yeah, the pivotal moment from going from just a local buddy wearing the shirt to one of the main up and coming artists currently on the scene who's wearing
it
shirt.
across the country in front of 40,000 people.
Yeah.
And that was a cool moment for us. That it was definitely it was like a stepping stone in our own reality of where we're going. The perception of the community was like, okay, they're no longer just these dudes running around with local artists. There's bigger artists starting to wear them. We started getting, that was like our first burst of random sales from, I think we had like Wisconsin sales and all these random states started like ordering within like 24 hours. So we knew that it was working. And this idea of we got to figure out how to style these artists started going.
It's already paying off, dude.
Yeah. So that's when we came home and we were like, all right, now we move forward into, and that's where he just wore a t-shirt. Now I was like, hey, we got to launch this collection that we just had the prototypes for. We finally got it out. We have it officially online. Now we got to figure out, how do we start styling these artists? Not just like, hey, wear a t-shirt. Let me do your fit head to toe. Let me do a custom fit for you. Let me do a one-of-one fit for you.
Well, it's cool. The way it actually happened is enough artists had worn our t-shirts and months had gone by. I think we had probably like 10 t-shirts at the time that we dropped. We passed them out to so many artists that eventually we had an artist say, okay, I've seen all these artists wearing your shirts. I don't want to wear another one of those t-shirts. Like, can you guys make me something just like unique just for my show?
I FaceTimed him and showed him what t-shirts we had. And he was like, oh, I love your brand. But he's like, I've seen artists wear all these pieces. And I was like, well, how about I make you something custom one-of-one just for you? And he's like, I would love that. And I was like, perfect. Let me do a full fit for you. Let me do like, we'll do the TAFARI sneakers. I'll make you custom pants. We'll make you a custom top. We'll do a full custom look for you. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And it was going to be for the New Year's show for Proper, which is the music festival in San Diego at Petco Park. The big stadium show is one of their bigger festivals for New Year's. And that was the next turning moment, because it went from, all right, we have a big artist who's wearing it, to now we have head to toe custom one-of-one fit. We're in the artist green rooms up, which is the box suites of the stadium. So we're up in these stadium box suites, like a space we had never been in, with artist levels we had never been in, with artist passes we had never been to. It was a big stepping stone for us and going, okay, like we got to start doing that. And that was on New Year's. And that same night that we had that fit in San Diego, we had shipped out a couple fits around the country. So we had, Decadence playing, and Boogie T was playing there in a fit. And we had this artist here, and so it was this moment of us going, all right, we have fits all over the country tonight in different cities at different festivals. We're styling this artist here. And the next day, of course, was the first of the year. We looked at each other and we're like, we have our new playbook. We're like, the new playbook is, how do we style artists and how do we push this brand through the artist community? But not just the idea of like promo, not just like, hey, represent our brand, help us get sales, wear our t-shirt. Like, we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to have that look. We weren't trying to be...
We didn't want to feel like the artists were feeling like they were getting used.
Because it's not about that. Obviously, marketing is going to happen because of it. Obviously, people seeing the brand, that is a result. But that is not the reason we wanted to do it. The reason I wanted to do it is truly was, I want to create custom pieces for these artists. I want to take my design to the next level. I don't want to feel like I'm just sending artist shirts. I didn't want to be that brand owner. I didn't want to be that designer. I didn't want to be that. I want to be a stylist. And that's the moment where I realized that, yes, I want to be a designer and have my own collections, but it's not just about that. I want to actually curate a fit for the artist. I want to tap into where the venue is, what style of music they have, their style themselves. For some artists, I would go way more colorful. For some artists, I'd go much harder, and for example, the skull shirt you're wearing right now, the skull that's in the center of that, not the exact frequency that comes around at the spiral, but the center skull came out in one of the designs that I had originally done for a harder artist that had much more harder style bass music and dubstep. So his vibe and energy was more in line with that. So it was helping me push my creativity in new spaces because I was no longer just designing for myself and what I thought was cool. I was designing through the lens of a different artist and going, like, for example, when I've created for you, when I created the zebra jacket for you, I thought, what am I making for Matt Robertson? This isn't a traditional piece. This is something that's got to fit for Matt. I made you a hoodie that said Zookeeper on it. Yeah. We had a zebra stripe denim jacket with zebra stripe pants, a fully Matt Robertson fit, right?
They're totally curated for sure.
And that's where I realized I wanted to step in line, with being a designer and a stylist is how do I take advantage of these in the space I'm in and the relationships I have, but showcase my work in a new way, as well as
it's like a collab, really.
It is.
And these are big moments. I mean, these artists have worked their whole life to make it to the shows that they're even performing. And now here they are letting this guy with this new brand make them a custom fit. They don't even really know what's coming most of the time. Most of the artists at the time were saying, just pull up with the fit. Like, I'll have something extra just in case I don't like it. But at the time, that's what was happening.
Every artist would pull up with backup fits. And that was a thing. And they'd say to me, they'd be like, you crushed the fit, but bro, I have a full backup fit right here because I was worried. I didn't know if it was going to be like fire or not. And I was like, understandable, but
an artist would walk out on stage.
Happy to say we'd smash it. So like the first one was, like I said, New Year's, right? On the 1st of January, we're like, we got to do this. We got to figure out how do we lock in these artists and how do we do big fits like frequently all the time,
right? Cool. I mean, at that time we were like, okay, now we can reach out to artists and say, let us do a custom fit for you. It was a whole nother realm of reach out that, hey, will you please wear our t-shirt? That's like a totally different thing. Yeah. Now, especially as an artist getting reached out to, I mean, that shifted it, elevated the
John
entire
Summit
brand.
saying, hey,
so him saying, hey, I'm down to wear a t-shirt. And then the next artist after him being like, I've seen them all, and me being like, well, you something custom. And then I was like, oh no, we're going fully custom right now. So I mentioned there was another artist named Boogie T, who's the one who wore it on New Year's as well. He wore it at Decadence while we were in San Diego. And when he wore that fit at Decadence, and the San Diego artist that we worked with at that time, his name was West End. Shout out West End. And he's awesome. We fitted him for Cross and a couple different times. But that same night we fit West End at Proper. We also fit Boogie T at Decadence. And I had reached out to his team after that and said, hey, I know you guys are coming to San Diego in about a month from now. You just wore our fit at Decadence. I'd love to do a custom. And that wasn't a custom fit. That was just a t-shirt. I'd love to do a full custom fit when you come to San Diego, House of Blues next month. And Boogie T, shout out Boogie T. His name is Brock, an amazing dude, amazing artist. And he was really cool about it. He was like, yeah, man. He's like, hey, let's see what you got. Full creative control. And I showed up to the green room that night at House of Blues. It was February 2022, 2022, I think. No, February 2023. We started the custom fit. February 2023. And I showed up to the green room with full crazy fit, head to toe. I hand dye everything myself. So a full, and that's actually one, cool stories. That was my first fully tie-dyed fit that I had done myself. At this time, I had started doing tie-dye with two brothers, Brett and Jake. Their brand is called Noise Dyes. They're based out of San Diego. They're two of my best friends. Shout out Brett and Jake. Shout out Noise Dyes. Two of our best friends and creatives.
So they dye the shirts for you?
No, I actually dye the shirts. They have their own tie-dye company. And I had one time a year before asked them to tie-dye a shirt for me. And over that year, I had realized that as much as I love their work, I really wanted to enter this tie-dye space myself with my own ideas and visions. And without going down the road of actually just completely doing it myself, I reached out to Brett and said, hey, dude, I know we don't know each other too super well, but we know of each other and each other's brands we've met before, and you've done tie-dye for me once. Could I pay you to let me come and do tie-dye in your studio with you and me do it myself rather than not? And he was like, oh, yeah, come on, we'll see how it is. We'll check it out. And we ended up clicking. We ended up, his brother, Jake, and him and I had spent over thousands of hours in that studio since then, just tie-dyeing together, playing music together. We've become brothers, and love those guys. But that was my first time doing an outfit for an artist that was fully custom hand-dyed by myself, and I did it in their studio. And it was cool because that was the very beginning of our relationship with Brett and Jake. We didn't know them too well. They didn't know us too well, but they're huge Boogie T fans. And I didn't know that. So I went to his house and we were hanging out. We were just in his room, taking a dab, vibing before we go in the tie-dye studio. He's like, so what are you making today? And I was like, oh, I'm doing a full custom fit for Boogie T at House of Blues. He goes, oh, like for you to wear at Boogie T. And I was like, no, this is for Boogie T. And he's like, you're making Boogie T's outfit for House of Blues. I was like, yeah. He was like, no fucking way. And it was instantly like a light went on. He was like, let's get in there, let's cook. And I was like, let's do this thing. And that was where the energy really got going, to where him and his brother saw, okay, this isn't just some random dude who's trying to come in here and use our tie-dye space and create with us.
Make his own thing.
Make his own brand, his own thing. This is a guy who's trying to come in here and create with us and, learn the tie-dye, from them and work with these artists. And they were like I said, shout out them. They brought me into their studio and their space like family. I wouldn't be able to do the tie-dye I do today and have grown how I have in that space without them. They're the ones who've taught me everything I need to know about tie-dye. But that was the first fit. Did Boogie T, crushed it. He loved it. We're in the green room after his performance and he looks at me and goes, so for the next fit, I'm thinking we go something really earthy and, my favorite material is corduroy. And I read just like that. And I looked at him and I was like, you got a Red Rocks in 2 weeks, your Red Rocks headline tour. And I was like, let me do your fit for the show. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, all right, cool. And I was like, no, like serious, let me do your fit. He's like, all right, cool, let's do it. But I didn't know if he was serious or not. So a couple days went by and I hit him up and I said, look, dude, I'd really love to do your full fit, head to toe, custom look for you for Red Rocks, using earthy tones, using corduroy, make it perfect. I'll bring it out for you. All I need is your confirmation that you're for sure down and I'll get started. I'll take care of the rest. And he responded, he's like, I'm down, let's do it. I was like, perfect. So I was like, if me and my boys fly out there, we put us like on artist lists and stuff. He's like, got you guys. So like, sweet. So at that time, Patrick, my buddy Ryan and I, who's part of the team, and us three packed our shit. I made this fit and we flew out here to Colorado Red Rocks. And that was my first time coming into your studio space here. And I never forget, I contacted you. We already knew each other. I had your work. We've been Instagram friends. I'd sent you, some like stuff where, we had a relationship, but it wasn't really built yet. And I never forget, I texted you and said, hey, I'm in Colorado this weekend. I'm doing a fit for Red Rocks. I'm here with my team. Are you comfortable with me and a couple of my boys coming to your studio and hanging out and checking out? And you're like, yeah, come on through, come by. That was our first real bond meeting of us actually meeting. We hung out for I think 2-3 hours in here with the crew. Check out your glass, talked about some pieces. I got your sizes and your stuff because I think I had a hat for you at the time and like a t-shirt, but I wanted to bring you some sneakers, or I did show up with the sneakers, the green sneakers I think I showed up with you for. All I know is I showed up with some gear and I was like, I'm going to make a relationship with Matt Robertson and that's going to be super dope. That's like my favorite glass blower. And I'm going to bring my heady glass pipe from him and he's going to be so sick. And I was like, I'm going to go fit Red Rocks. It was this moment. I was like, I'm doing this thing. I was like, I'm doing it. And we came out here, we checked in our hotel, rented our whip. We came here, seshed out with you, had a blast. We went to Red Rocks that night. We're in the green room experiencing. We're like, oh, this is crazy. We've never been to a venue like this. It was blowing our minds. We were sitting there looking at each other being like, we're actually in the green room. You hear there's pictures like the Beatles on the wall and John Denver and all the artists who've been in the green room. And we're just like, whoa. Don't get me wrong. We're still so excited about what we're doing, but that was when we were much more impressionable. We hadn't experienced it yet, so we didn't really know what this life was like and this industry was like. And people often will say, when was the moment you can look back on that it was working? Like at what moment did you sit back and go like, oh, this is working? And it was at Red Rocks that night. We were backstage watching him with the fit. This is crazy.
Looking at the crowd from that point of view.
Crowd is, insane. And we were like, let's walk to the very top of Red Rocks, very, very top, and just look down at the view. Go up there, go session, kick it for a sec. So we get up there and we're looking down and, Red Rocks, the big giant screens. How you can see the screens were on of the artist a close up and you could see the TAFARI fit.
I saw it last Friday, dude.
Yeah. So it was the same exact moment. And I had chilled. It shook me in my core. And I looked at Patrick and I said, this is the moment I will always remember when people say like, when did you know it was working? Or like, when did you really know like it was going to happen? And that was the moment. I sat there and looked at Patrick and I was like, dude, if 3 of us are in another state, flown out on an artist list, and we're doing the outfit for an artist at this level for a venue at this level, for a headline show, and we're just at the very beginning of what we're trying to do. I was like, this is work. This is exactly what, and that was our moment where we kind of just, it was like a dap up, but it was also like a telepathic dap of like, oh, like, no, we're doing this thing. Like, what's actually going to happen? And, you know, we came home from, and just to go a little bit back in the story, on January 1st, when I said, all right, we're doing custom fits, this is the move. I said, and these are the fits we're doing this year. We're doing Red Rocks, Colorado. We're doing Coachella. We're doing EDC. We're doing Tomorrowland. And we're going to do the Brooklyn Mirage. And I was
like, let's get it.
And he's like, let's run it. And I was like, we're hitting all those venues. Everyone, we're doing a headline artist, like full fit. I said, doing it.
Damn.
Let's run it. We're like, okay.
Did you have them booked already?
No.
Oh no, that was your plan.
Oh,
okay.
no, that was the idea. We didn't even know we were
like, how do we do that?
We still didn't
we had a goal to shoot for.
We still didn't even know the artists. We still didn't even know who the artists were.
Yeah.
But to show how it all connects. The night I'm with Boogie T, I'm boying out with the photographer. And the photographer is like, oh, like, you know, he's like, I know about your brand, this and that. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm looking to get some fits for Coachella coming up next month. And he goes, yeah, like, who you trying to work with? And I was like, I'm trying to do Disco Lines' outfit. And he's like, I work with Disco Lines. I was like, really? He's like, I'll see what I can do. Same thing as John Summit. Within a few days, I was in contact with Disco Lines. Damn. And I was like, yo, what's up? This is the brand. This yada, yada, yada. I want to do a head to toe custom fit for you for Coachella. Let's run it. All right, let's do it. Cool. I made him some pants that said Disco Frequency down the side, hand dyed this cool set. And we drove up to, was it Redondo Beach he lived in?
He actually lived in
Marina Del Rey. Marina Del Rey. Went to Marina Del Rey. For Coachella. Showed up to him, dripped him out, gave him his fit. Ended up doing, 2 or 3 fits that Coachella. Ended up not being one. So we did those fits. We did Disco Lines fit. Shout out Disco Lines. We did DJ Susan's fit, one of our other best friends in the industry. Shout out DJ Susan, Susie's house.
You guys put me onto him.
One of the biggest, brightest energies and spirits in the whole scene. Seriously.
A brother
and a game changer in the industry. That guy's a legend. But went to Coachella, did their fits. Well, we're like 1 month out from EDC. And now we're like, okay, we got to get some fits in for EDC, right? So Riot 10 is this bass artist we love, good friend of ours, great bass artist, crazy bass. And we hit him up and we were like, yo, let's do your fit for EDC. He's like, let's run it. There's this awesome girl that we like named Nostalgics. And we fit her. I don't know how many times we fit her now, but it's an artist that we love to work with. And first fit that we did for her was EDC that same year. And it was what they call the opening ceremony. So the whole EDC, all the stages open at one time, but an hour before the rest of them open, one specific stage opens and they call it opening ceremony. So that anyone who's at EDC early comes together at one time, has this really opening up experience together. And then once that set's done, they disperse through the festival. So we end up getting her fit for opening ceremony. So all of a sudden we just did Coachella a few fits. Now EDC's a month out. We have Nostalgic's fit lined up, ready to go. We have Riot 10's fit lined up, ready to go.
At that point, we were like, let's see what else we can do.
I was like, I had this feeling. I was like, we got to get another artist and like really just like another high level artist on a different stage. Who are we going to work with? And now to go back a little bit further in the story, and we're going to tie back into, we're going to go back to October of 2022. So about 6 months before this EDC. I'm in San Diego. I'm at a club called Nova, which is our local club right down the street from us. And I had gone there to see an artist named Hugel, Hugel, proper pronunciation, Hugel. Many know him as Hugel. Went down to see him perform. At this time, I was familiar with his music, but had never met him before. I definitely was looking up to his style. He's got some swag for sure. One of the swaggiest artists in the game. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I got to figure out how to fit this guy for sure. So I went to his show. This girl I know and my buddy Quabi, who I spoke about at the beginning, we all went to the show together. And I think about 10 minutes into being at the show, John Summit's photographer, who was there at the same venue, texted me. He's like, hey, are you at the club tonight? I said, yeah. And he said, I got a backstage artist band for you. Come back here. I said to Quabi, and the girl said, hey, peace out, guys. I said, I got to go do what I got to do to see if I can secure this thing. So I went back and Hugel's sitting behind stage in a booth, just chilling by himself. And I never forget, I walked right in, sat right down next to him. Yo, what up, man? I'm Tafari. Nice to meet you. I'm a fashion designer. Like, love your music and your work. Start trying to pitch him. Now being friends with Hugel and knowing that that's the thing he hates the most. It's funny because I was like his worst nightmare back then, because knowing who he is now, and he's the best with people. He shows love to everyone, take pictures of everyone, but everyone's trying to come up and, yo, my bro, let me tell you what's up. Let me pitch you. And everyone's like that now I see in the scene. So I was one of those guys who's like, yo, what up, man? Nice to meet you. Yada, yada, yada. And at the end of his set, when he came off, I was like, bro, I'd really love to work with you. Like, I want to send you some gear. He's like, all right, for sure. I was like, let me get your phone number. He's like, I'm not giving you my phone number. I was like, come on, let me get your phone number. He's like, I'm not giving you my phone number. He's like, send me a DM. And I was like, nah, every artist says that. No one even responds to the DM. That's cap. And he was like, what? And I was like, let me get your number. And he's like, I'm not giving you my number. He's like, DM me. And I show him my Instagram. And I was like, yo, tap into the frequency. Like, don't forget it. Like, I'm going to DM you, but you better reply. He's like, all right, cool. And the next day I shot him a DM. I was like, yo, I'd love to send you some gear. He's like, cool. Here are my sizes. Send him out some sneakers, some shirts, little drip kit. And it's funny because he wore it. He didn't perform in it, but within that week, he had posted a story and he was wearing the gear. So I knew that he liked it. I knew he at least rocked it. It didn't just go in the closet and gift it to someone. So I was like, all right, cool. And I hit him up again or whatever, and never heard back. And I was like, all right, whatever, all good. Big artist doing big things. Fast forward 6 months later, we just finished Coachella. We're getting ready for EDC. I already got 2 artist fits locked in, and I'm looking for another one. And I'm sitting in my house, and dude, the same way the Tafari name hit me in the head, I'm just posted up, and I just get this message that just says, you're fitting Hugel for EDC. And it was like, dink. I opened my phone, opened the DM thread, and I sent a message. Yo, G.
How long before EDC? I think it was like a week.
This is 2 weeks before EDC.
2 weeks.
This is right before EDC.
Oh,
it's right close.
Kind of a last second, let's just see what he says.
But I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I gotta get more artist trip for EDC. 2 is cool, but I'm always trying to outdo myself and just keep raising the bar. So I was like, all right, I just got a few for Coachella. I was like, I need a few for EDC. Let's run it. We got opening ceremony, cool. We got Riot 10, cool, but I need another fit. And I DM'd him. I was like, yo, G, hope you're doing well. I'd love to fit you for Coachella. Do you already have your fit planned?
For EDC.
For EDC, not Coachella. And I'll never forget, all he responded is, what you thinking? And I said, give me an hour. And I was like, I'll be back to you with an hour. He's like, okay. I go on Photoshop real quick, and I put together 10 outfits that I hypothetically make, a sneakers with these pants, with this shirt, with the, I fully curate a whole these looks.
Wow.
And I sent him the looks, and he's like, that shirt with those pants, with just, he pieced together the fit from what I'd sent him. And nothing was made yet. Nothing was, also I had to prep and figure out how to do. And I didn't even come up with it yet. But I was like, all right, we got it locked in. And I was like, for sure. I was like, cool, sounds good. So he responded, or I said, I was like, cool, these ones. He's like, yeah, I like those ones. And I said something else, and then he didn't open it. I thought, okay, well, I think we're locked in, you know what I'm saying? Because he said he liked it, but I don't know. So days went by, and I was like, yo, we're 1 week from EDC right now. Am I doing this guy's fit or not? But I also was not trying to be annoying and just keep double texting him. So I realized okay, I got to hit him again, but I got to hit him with a confident play that basically gives me a black and white answer. So I hit him with, yo, in the middle of making your fit right now, please confirm your sizes before I finish up. I'll see you at EDC. Just something that was a hit. He responded right away. Just his size is flat. Nothing else. Just shoes this, pants this, shirt that. That was it. And I was like, okay, I think it's going down, right? I'm pretty sure it's going down. And at that time, I had been put on the artist list for these different artists, but at that time we still didn't have an artist band to get into the festival. Patrick. So I was thinking okay, cool. I'm already on the other artist team list. I got to figure out how I'm getting Patrick on a list now. But Hugel didn't know my real name or my real name. So I was like, oh, it was perfect. So a few more days went by, and I reached out to him. I said, hey, just finished your fit, even though I was far from finishing. I was like, just finish your fit, confirming when I'm meeting you at EDC, and also confirming you have an extra spot on your list for me. And then
I think he just responded back.
I think he responded
name.
or something like send name or name. And I was like,
So we put my name.
I put Patrick's name and I was like, perfect. I send the name, but like same thing. Like
And he just hearted it.
Yeah.
Even hearted or like,
I think he just
I didn't think it hearted. I think he like just like opened it. And I remember being like,
Is it?
okay, like,
But like, what are you gonna say at that point?
but at the same time, I'm not trying to keep being that guy. Yeah, I wasn't trying to be that guy. So I was like, all right, I think we're chilling, right? So like,
There's enough of momentum leading up to it. Where we're like,
Let's
it
go.
must be good. It must be.
yeah,
good.
I was like, he's responding. I was like, let's cook. So we drive out to EDC, and I remember at this time, I'm still scrambling to put these fits together because I had like
1 week. Holy shit.
No,
One of the fits was
it's the day
hand-painted.
before. It's the day before EDC starts. Like EDC starts on Friday, and it's on Thursday, and I'm still working on these fits.
One of the
And
shirts was hand painted.
I'd committed to a hand painted shirt, a fully hand painted shirt. I'm ambitious for my commitments apparently to the drip because I was like, I got you, bro, no problem. Hand painted shirt, let's do it.
Do anything
With your custom slogan all through it in different colors, no problem. I can do that. So we're like on the way to Vegas, and we have Hugel's fit luckily done. Opening ceremony done, except for I'm still like hot gluing rhinestones on it to like still bedazzle it. And then the other artist, I'm still painting his shirt. So I'm like in the car to Vegas, painting this dude's shirt with like a bumpy road, trying to paint his shirt. I'm like, oh my God. I realize I can't paint it because it's too bumpy. So we get to the hotel, and I think it's like 11 or midnight. And the artist was like, yo, let's meet up tonight. And I at like 10 p.m. or something that night.
Shirt wasn't even close to done.
We were driving to Vegas, and he's like, let's meet tonight at 10 p.m. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Meanwhile, our ETA is saying like midnight, and the shirt's not even done yet. So like it's like 9 p.m. and he's like, yo, what's good? Just checking in for this meetup. And I was like, oh, bro, like taking a little longer for us to get into Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Like we're going to get in a little extra late. He's like, no problem. Hit me up when you get here. So it's like midnight, and I'm like getting to Vegas. His shirt's still not done yet. And he's like,
It was a button up, and only the front quarter was done, but the entire thing was about to be hand painted.
there was still hours left. And I remember thinking to myself, all right. I was like, he's like, where you at? And I was like, oh, so we're still getting into Vegas. It's taking a little bit.
Sitting there painting the shirt.
I was like,
in
let
the
me
room.
just meet you. Let me meet you early in the morning. And he's like, all right, bro. But he's like, you have to meet me at Resorts World where the artists are staying. And I have to have my piece latest like 7:45 a.m. because I'm going to leave and be gone during the day doing stuff until the event. I won't be back at the hotel. So I was like, okay, it's like 1 a.m. in Vegas. And I'm like, I got to be in the lobby at 7:30 with your fit. I was like, perfect. I'll see you then. I was like, I'm going to get some rest. He goes to sleep. And I sit there and I paint this shirt, and it's like 6:50, and I'm still painting the shirt,
Jesus.
bro. And it's like 7, and I'm still painting this shirt. And like 7:15, I shake this guy awake. I was like, get up. I was like, we got to roll. And I hold the shirt up, and it's finished. And I was like, we got to cook. We got to get out of here. We go straight there, pull up. What up, dude? How are you? Gift him his shirt. He's stoked. Make the link. Come back. Start doing other artist links. And we're like doing it. We're like, okay, we at least got one fit done. Now, like, got to figure this out. But Hugel was flying into Vegas that night. And meanwhile, all 3 fits are the same night of EDC. They're all opening night, the first night, but all different timelines. So we're figuring out how to work with all the artists the same night, be all the stages. And there's different bands for different stages, for different, like for teams or who you're with. And so we were like trying to logistically, organize it all. And we got Riot Tennis fit. We got opening ceremony, her fit. But Hugel's now flying into Vegas.
And it's delayed, so we're like waiting. At this point, we had done all the fits together, but opening ceremony was about to start, and Hugel hadn't even gotten to Vegas yet. So he basically had to go to EDC to go to Nostalgic's fit, and I was sitting there in Vegas like, is this guy gonna land? Like, where is he at?
And at that time, I put him in contact with Hugel, and I was like, yo, like my partner's, gonna be dropping a fit or whatever.
The guy you put on your list.
Yeah, didn't even know that's the guy. Didn't even know that's the guy's on his list. And he doesn't really know us at this point. The teams that no one knows us.
I'd never even met him.
He never even met him. I'd met him in a club once. And I'm now at EDC already on stage doing the fits with this team. And he's back at the hotel WhatsApping Hugel trying to deliver this fit. That was
epic.
That was just an epic moment.
Okay. So now up until that point, we'd done everything together. That was the very first moment we had to split for the company because two things were happening.
Expansion.
It was the first moment where 2 different things were happening at the same time, and it was up to us to make it happen. So he goes to opening ceremony. I'm sitting there at Resorts World, ended up fitting Flo for the night. I went back. I took the shuttle, I think, by myself that night. And that was the very first night of EDC fits. And now we've done, I'm not sure how many since, but I'll always look back on that moment.
That was like this breaking moment because he arrived at the festival, and I was like, because our phones didn't work in service. And I just looked at him. I was like, did everything go smooth? You got him the fit? He's like, he's fully fitted. We're good to go. I was like, Cool. He rolls in like 2 hours. Let's go to work with this artist now. And then all of a sudden, the manager was like, hey, we're at the trailer. I was like, all right, time to shine. So we walk up to the trailer. We go there, meet Hugel. He's like, what up, guys? Crew, we say what up. We go with them over to his stage. We have his set with them. Night goes smoothly. Everything goes great. We have an incredible EDC. And Monday morning comes, and I reached back out to him. I was like, yo, dude, great to meet you. Hope everything was well. And he responded, and he goes, yeah, I liked my fit, but I liked your fit a lot more. My debut for Miami Space is this Friday. Can you overnight me the fit you were wearing? And I debut Space wearing that fit. And I was like,
done.
All right, yeah, of course, no problem. I'm still in Vegas. It's like Monday night.
Dirty.
Clothes are dirty. I'm like
sweating that thing all night at EDC.
So we race back to San Diego on Tuesday, get home, quickly go to a dry cleaner, dry clean all these clothes. By Wednesday, we're sending out this fit to Florida. And I was like, yeah, the address I sent you the first time, right? He's like, yeah, of course, blah, blah, blah. Friday night comes, he's sitting there waiting to go to Miami Space, and he's like, where's my package? And I was like looking at it, I'm like, it just got delivered like 10 minutes ago. He's like, it's not at my building. Then he goes, I've moved since that address. And I was like, fuck. And luckily, his manager at the time, it wasn't too far, hopped in his car, drove to the old place he lived, and figured out getting the package.
Oh, damn.
He gets him the package. They open it up. He puts on the full fit. He goes to Miami Space that night. Crushed it. That was his debut there. Hits me, I think, calls me a day or two later, and he goes, I loved it. I love the fits. Send me another box of custom fits, or send me whatever you want to send me. I leave on tour in 2 weeks right now for a European tour. I'll be out on tour for, I think, 2 months or so. Any of the stuff that I like, I'll take on tour with me. So I went home and I was like, all right, time to hustle. I think I put together like 10 custom looks. I did jackets, pants, shirts, like denims. Like I really went in that 2 weeks, like every day, morning to night. And invested the money into the pieces, the time, the energy. I was like, I'm gonna cook some fire right now. Sent him out the package, and he opened it, and every single piece I sent him, he wore on that tour. And it was for us, it was fun because every few days we'd see another video go up and be like, hey, there's that piece. He wore that one. That was also funny because that was my first time, like you call it virtual styling, because he had his whole package box, and I called him. I said, hey, look, I know that these are all your fits I made you, but this specific look, this is your head to toe look for Electric Forest. And he's like, okay. I was like, do you know Electric Forest is?
I've heard of it.
That's a cool festival. It's out there.
Oh, it's in Michigan, right?
In the forest, yeah. And I was like, this specific is like a crazy look. It's like matching top and bottom set. It's like a full piece. And I was like, this one's for Electric Forest. And every time Patrick, I was like, all right, this is the moment of truth. Like, he obviously likes the gear, but is he going to take my styling like through the phone and actually wear the exact fit I like told him to rock the fit? And we watched the content, and he stepped out wearing it. And we were like, hell yeah. We were like, this is cool. Like, he obviously rocks with the brand. He obviously is a fan of what we're doing, but he's also embracing it enough to the point where he recognizes my eye and my style, and he's comfortable with, me fitting him and me showing up with these fits. So, that's really where the relationship sparked. And then the same thing, a couple months went by, and he goes, going back on tour, like, let's get a fresh new box. I was like, all right, let's do it. We sent him another package of stuff, and that's when he showed up. And I mean, he had some crazy fits in that one. One of our signature pieces called the Tribe Pants, and the Tribe Pants were in that package. And we were excited that day because we were like, we always love seeing him, loving the artist teams and hang out with them and stuff. But when an artist really embraces the work so much, there's another level of connection in that space, because you can really tell that they love it. It's like, how I feel about your work. When you're wearing our gear, the same feeling. So we saw him pull up in the craziest fit, and I remember thinking like, damn, this guy's done right now. Like, this guy's swaggiest guy in the building.
Crazy Tribe Pants,
sure.
Crazy tie-dye shirt.
Tie-dye like button shirt.
Like a leather bucket hat we made him for that.
TAFARI signature bucket hat, like crazy look. And his energy was a little different that day. And I was thinking like,
we were like, this is a
what's up with this guy,
Day trip in LA.
And we're on stage, and I don't forget, this is the moment where he comes up and he's like, all right, so we need to talk about the clothes. I was like, what about?
We were just kind of standing there like, do you not like them? Like,
what about the clothes? And he's like, so I used to have my own brand. I was like, I did not know you used to have your own brand. He goes, I used to have my own brand. When I started working on music, I was also working on clothing, and I had my own hat brand, and it started doing very, very well in Europe. And he had it, I think, around 40 or 45 stores in Europe started carrying his brand and actually became pretty successful. And at that point, he was at a split in the road of, do I want to be a DJ or do I want to be a fashion designer, brand owner, and have this brand? And his quote was, you can't be the king of two things. And he's like, I had to decide which one I really wanted to be the king of. And at that time in life, he decided to choose being a DJ and passed off the company to some friends. The company itself ended up later kind of fizzling out, but he always has had a passion for fashion and style and swag. And it's always been something he loved. So, you know, finding that common space in our love for clothes and our passion for it and our design, our style, he felt very connected to. So he's sharing a little about himself and his background and his history in that space.
We're kind of like,
like, all right, cool. Sounds good.
Sweet.
Now, for those who don't know, Hugel's music is a genre called Latin house or Afro house. So this is going to have a lot more tribal beats to it, a lot more percussion than traditional electronic music, a lot more
sunset energy,
a lot more rooted, a lot more tribal, a lot more just that whole side of the world, just like our clothing is. So, you know, it's a very organic alignment in what we call tribal streetwear, what they call Afro house in their music. There's a similar energy space. So he started recognizing that the energy that we're infusing into the brand and into these pieces is very similar to the energy that he's using and expressing through his music. And there's a really strong correlation in that space. And that was the moment where he started expressing his, you know, interest in us and the brand. And that's when he looked over and said, I want to be a partner of TAFARI World. He's like, I want to work with you guys. I want to join this brand and I want to help you guys build this brand. And
this was like 2 minutes before he was about to go on the decks.
Holy shit.
Yeah, the time
was ticking. The manager was like, yo, like, you gotta go. And he was like this, like,
he's hanging in the back, like talking about the brand. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I want to have some deeper conversations, but I want to join your brand and I'd love to be a part of this. And he said, I don't want to just be an investor. He's like, I want to be a partner. I want to really be a part of this brand. He's like, I want to help take this brand to that next level. And, you know,
I remember we looked at each other like,
we were like,
we looked at each other like,
that was,
he just,
but you know,
like,
and then he goes on stage,
and then he's like, all right, daps us up. He goes on stage.
Left us like that on the edge.
So the whole stage that day, we were like, that was sick. But you know, as amazing as it was to hear, we take everything with a grain of salt. There's so many people saying so many things all the time about everything that you don't really know how serious people are. Also knowing how busy he is and knowing that he's in a, you know, coming up big in his career right now. I heard it with excitement and I felt the genuineness in it, but it still didn't seem how it was going to fully connect for me. I was like, okay, that's cool. And I appreciate the interest, right? But at what level is this actually going to intersect to become that, right? So
at that point, it's literally just us two doing everything. We'd always kind of thought, okay, maybe we'll have somebody eventually join in the brand, maybe this or that, but
making each piece.
Yeah.
Not making it, more just as another partner of the brand. Like, and the idea of scaling the brand, we'd always looked into the future of, okay, yeah, us two are running it right now, and us two are managing it, and us two are designing, but to take this thing to a global level, at some point down our path, there's going to, and I used to have an intuition about this, and I would speak about this. I'd say, you know, at some point down our path, there will be a partner that I believe that we're supposed to bring into the company and let join, you know, TAFARI World and become part of what we're doing. And at the time, we had been already offered multiple different investments and different partnerships with other people, not musicians or artists necessarily, but
business people,
capital, like just people who are looking
from different parts of the world, business wise, who had money from
different industries too, and different ages. We had multiple people.
How did they become aware of you and like want to invest?
So a little bit coming back into the story, this family or this brand is a family. This brand is founded by myself, Patrick, and my two parents, and they were the two early co-founders of the brand and early investors into the brand. So they're the ones who helped us during the original start of getting everything going, for prototypes, for really building the brand. They were the original believers in the brand. So super, super huge shout out to Viv and Greg, my mom and dad, because they are the reason at the end of the day that we've been able to pursue the dream and take it to the level we have. You know, without them and their early belief in this, we would have still done TAFARI. We would have still been successful with TAFARI, we would not have been able to go down the route of let's open with a sneaker and let's take it to a higher end route. So, the passion was always there. The art was always there. The drive, we were creating this thing no matter what. TAFARI World would have existed no matter what, but them believing in our hard work in Los Angeles, they're believing in our hard work in Los Angeles, and they saw us, they joined us for a couple investment meetings. And after them seeing other people's interest in wanting to become an owner of the brand, an investor in the brand, they realized that they didn't want to see someone else become a part of the brand, but they wanted to rather have it be a family brand, and they wanted to rather invest themselves. So it was a beautiful journey of their original belief and the idea to let's help them get it started to we actually want to be the capital investors to help launch this brand. So the four of us were the original founders of the brand, knowing that that was the original core of the brand and that we had enough with that team to be able to get us set up. I knew that the bridge to the mega market, further capital, and everything we want to do to scale this to a global brand, there's a good chance there was going to be another partner that comes up. And that was an intuition.
Just knew that.
I knew that. I knew that to grow this thing. I knew that we'd be successful.
It's happen in other realms of different businesses where
I knew we'd be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
Without it, but
that's a good way to get it out there to the masses pretty quick.
I knew that either way, this vision, this message is going to reach the masses. It's at the scale we want to reach the masses. It's at the timeline we want to reach the masses. And it's at the way we want to be able to, I think the right word to put this, essentially extend ourselves into the right specific teams and people that are going to be able to help take this to that level. We're going for a global brand. We don't want to be we start local. We always say always local, but going global. We want to have the local traits, and we came from San Diego, but our vision for this is so beyond a local brand. It really is a global brand. And we know that to take a brand global at the level we want to do it, it's not going to come from just us two working hard and believing in it. There's going to be other partners that are going to come in if we want to take it to that level. Now, if we want to do it just ourselves, I know that we could do it, but the timeline and the road for that is going to be completely different than aligning ourselves with the partner or with the person who could help introduce us to the teams that'll take it to that level. So at that time, there was an intuition telling me for a while that there's going to be a partner that comes up in our life. And it's funny because even the year we met Hugel, I even said to Patrick and my parents multiple times, my intuition is telling me that this year we're going to find a partner who's going to be the partner for TAFARI World. And I had kind of this guidelines, right, of what the partner would be. Of course, you have to have capital. Of course, you have to have, the relationships, and you have to have a way to connect us into these other spaces. But aside from relationships and money and all those things that you would look at that investor, a partner has to have, for us, it was the mindset. It was someone who sees like us, who thinks like us. It was someone who's an artist. It was someone who can feel as an artist does and create and think the way an artist does. For us to be such artists at the forefront and to align ourselves just with a capital investor wouldn't work, because they're not going to see and feel what we see and feel for TAFARI. And to join this brand and this company and be a part of us, you have to believe in what we believe in. You have to believe in the future of what TAFARI World is. So for us, we had some, back to you saying, where do you have the invest opportunities from? There are people in my mom or Greg's world that they knew of, other business colleagues and people who had found out about the brand through them and were interested in it.
In our early success, kind of thought, maybe we could
this
be
is
a part
kind
of
of
it.
cool.
They weren't,
they weren't the right partners.
Not much to offer except for cash.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, some great business skills.
Yeah, sure.
But great business skills and cap. There's a lot of people out there with some business skills and some capital. And there's a lot of people out there. But to really do what we're trying to do, we needed a specific individual who was on the frequency and on the TAFARI World wavelength, who was truly like believing in it the same way we believed in it. The reason my parents invested is because they bought into the belief. They believe in us. They believe in the vision. They believe in the designs. They believe in the message. They believe in it so hardcore that even when their own peers, their own financial advisors, their own people in their words were telling them, hey, I don't know if you're making the right decision right now by investing in your son and continuing to invest in this specific way to help them get this brand going at the beginning, they stayed down and they stayed believing in us and investing in us because they could see the vision. So at that point, we knew what it felt like to have people who were with us on the belief. we also know what it felt like to have people wanting to be a part of us who were just looking at the money. So for us, it was this fine line of, okay, if there's going to be a partner one day, really at what level are they? They have to have all that, but they have to be an artist at some sort so they can connect with us. So when Hugel had made the first approach of, I want to be a partner, that was the first moment we had said, okay, we have a potential candidate here. We have someone who actually we could see bringing into the brand and having it be a part with us. So that was a cool moment for us, but it still felt like, all right, we'll see what happens and we'll see how that goes. And
we've had a lot of people become close with us. And I think the more and more we evolve, the more we realize how special our relationship is, in the sense that we are seeing the same thing. We are coming from the same place. And we've had a lot of people become close to that, but we've, until Hugel, never had somebody who came in and fully synced with us, in the sense where they're, like you said, seeing what we're seeing, believing what we're believing, experiencing life the way we're experiencing it. He's an artist. He's touring. He likes brands. He's already had his own brand. He has the money. He has the connections. But even still at that point, we were kind of like, okay, well, we don't want to put our foot on the gas too hard. Like, let's still take this slow. Up until that point, like I said, we'd done everything together with, your parents. Nobody had been part of that. Nobody had been part of a decision that the brand was making up until that point. And
we're very sensitive on that,
But that's pretty much where we were. It was us four up until that point, and this was the period where we were like, okay, we have this candidate. He's checking all the boxes for us. And at that time, we were still doing his fits, and
that's when we started more just discussing the actual dynamic of him becoming a partner. Fast forward, I think about 6-8 months from the original conversation about it. We've continued to discuss it, continued to go back and forth about what it looks like. And now I'm staying with him in Miami for Miami Music Week. It's just last year. And that was I
remember you told me that.
That was the official link. Him and I went out for a meal, just us two, and he kind of sat down and he just got right to it. And he's like, look, I want a partner. I want to join this brand. I want to be a part of it. Let's do this thing together. Let me partner. And with partnering, why don't you come on tour with me full time? We'll travel around the world together. We'll spread the brand. We'll start to make plans for the brand, content plans, creative plans, collection plans. And within, I think, what was it? Less than 1 month, we came up from Miami Music Week, did his fit for EDC. And the EDC was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That following week, I left on tour with him. Wow. And at that point, we spent the whole summer touring Europe. Absolutely the most incredible experience I could have ever had. We went everywhere, every country and city you could imagine. And that was really the deepening of the bond, the relationship, and the further reassurance that we had made the right decision. The more him and I connected on tour, the closer we became. I mean, now I consider him one of my best friends and brothers. We've gotten so close. I've gotten so close with the team, the management, everyone involved in his circle, in his world. And started doing exactly what we need to do. We started focusing on, let's bring to life a full collection. We've had shirts before, we've had sneakers, we've had hats, we've made hoodies, we made pieces, but we've never released a full collection that is pants, shirts, shorts, jackets, leathers, bombers, zip-ups, everything total. And that was our plan. While we were touring, we were working on designs, ideas. I started working with our manufacturing teams and get everything ready to actually launch our new collection that was going to launch by the end of last year, 2024. Fast forward a few months, we got the opportunity to have our first exhibit at Miami Art Basel, which was huge for us.
Yeah, you sold a painting too,
Sold a painting there, which was incredible. It was a real big manifest because at the very beginning of our journey, we had written down in 2020, some goals, and we wrote down 2024 December Art Basel exhibit. An exact month, exact manifestation came true. And about 2 or 3 months before Art Basel, we were in Vegas at a show, and we met and became friends with someone named Trippy Labs, who was taking over a specific exhibit at a venue called Factory Town in Miami. And he offered us the opportunity to be the chosen brand of the exhibit and bring all of our paintings, all of our clothing. So we thought, what a better opportunity than let's drop the first collection at Miami Art Basel. So logistically, the craziest experience of our life, we rented a cargo van and we cargo vanned it from San Diego to Miami. The whole van just filled with paintings and with clothes. Meanwhile, we had our entire new collection getting shipped into Miami, and we have, customs calling us because containers are on hold and logistic issues and broker, and we're on the way to Miami in the cargo van, and I'm on the phone with brokers trying to release the goods from customs and get them brought to the venue. I mean, it was another level, but we did it, and we somehow managed it, and we somehow landed the entire collection in a semi truck. We had them bring it into the music venue the day before the music venue had opened, and we had them unload the entire stock and brought it in on forklifts up into this actual venue, set up our paintings, set up our clothes. About 10 of our best friends, who we call our tribe, flew out from San Diego to come help us. We were out there for 2 weeks. We had 1 week where we set up the space. We had photo shoots, content weeks, studios we had rented. We had the week show, launched the collection. Grateful to say sold a painting, which was an incredible experience to do at our first Art Basel. Going out to Art Basel, we said, all right, what's the goal? We were like, let's go out there. Let's have a successful, let's crush it. Let's spread the brand. Let's sell a bunch of clothes and let's sell a painting. I'm very proud to say our first Art Basel, we did all of those. It was a big accomplishment. And amazing, we ended the week with a feeling of, all right, it's going down. We left our exhibit on Sunday night, and it wasn't Sunday night technically because it's a nocturnal event. So Monday morning we came out of the event, and 8 a.m. we're coming back to our place. We're staying. I've been up all night, and we're having a little recap with the tribe about how crazy the week went. And while we're having the recap, someone texted us, and the first official big article written about TAFARI World had got released. And it was that day we sat there and read through an entire article with pictures of us and talking about the exhibit and talking about the collection. And the next day, another article came out. And next day we had an article in Japan get released. And it was this burst that had happened. That was our first moment of, okay, we came out, we did Art Basel.
We got media writing
We have media writing about us. We have media in other countries writing about us right now. We're selling painting. We have official campaigns are dropping. It's go time. It's officially go time. So we came back. We drove back across the country with all of our clothes. Came back.
Stopped by here on the way.
Came back, stopped by here, saw you, hung out for a few days, rented some snowmobiles. That was our little dream. We told ourselves, if we sell a painting at Art Basel,
we're going and staying with Matt, we're going snowmobiling.
Because we weren't going to actually originally even come back to Colorado. We were just going to come back because it's faster to go the other way.
Yeah.
Then we said, if we sell a painting, we're going the long way home. We're going to go stay with Matt for a few days, and we're going to go snowmobiling.
We did.
And we went and did that. And it was
check that off the list.
Check that off. That was incredible. Came back to San Diego. And that's when it kind of hit. We were like, all right, cool. We're back now. We have the collection. We have the partner. Things are in motion. Now, how do we grow this thing? And we did another campaign, went to Joshua Tree with the team, did an amazing new campaign shoot that we did. February was Patrick's 30th birthday. We went to Egypt and spent almost 2 weeks in Egypt. Epic. But right before Egypt, it became very apparent to us that we have to figure out our next move. For the company to truly scale right now, we have to figure out how we're going to create a sales channel, how we're going to create an environment where you can feel what TAFARI World is, not just be able to go order online. So going into Egypt, the big manifest and the big energy was, how do we position ourselves to push the brand? The second we get home, how do we go full force? We come home from Egypt, and within less than 36, 48 hours of coming from Egypt, I'm not exaggerating when I say that, we got the keys to a new place that is a private little showroom. It's a live workspace, but we're turning the bottom into a showroom and a private boiler room. So we'll have events there and artists come perform. And at the same time, we got a new creative space, showroom space, venue space, whatever you want to call that space. It's a multifaceted space. We also got the keys to our first store in San Diego. So we came home from Egypt, all of a sudden had keys to a new place, had keys to a new store.
Yeah, they look awesome.
Everything hit at one time, and the store is actually inside of a music venue. It's in a music venue called Wicked West in San Diego.
That's
really bad.
It's incredible. It's a perfect alignment for our brand. You know, they have 4 stages there. They're busy working on rebuilding the main stage and expanding it into a separate room. It's an amazing venue. And we just so happened to land ourselves in there at the perfect time to meet the owner, Alex, and speak with him. And we pitched him the vision on us leasing the whole top floor of the venue, turning it into a TAFARI store and lounge. He loved the idea. He gave us the green light, and we knew from that moment we got the keys. We had 3 weeks until we left for Miami Music Week. And the day that we got home, 2 days after we got home from Miami Music Week, the store opened because there's an event that day. So all of a sudden we were like, we have 3 weeks to move our place, close down the old place, open a store, move our entire stock down from our other warehouse into this space. It was go time. And I don't think we slept for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, we called all of our friends. We put everyone together. One day we put a 20-person crew together to move our entire stock from up north down to our new store. Fully built out the store, fully built out the new place. Left for Miami Music Week. Went 8 days there. We did 22 fits in those 8 days. We slept probably 15 hours in 8 days straight. Dating is all-nighter after all-nighter after all-nighter after all-nighter. I don't even know how we're alive. We made it through. We fitted all the artists we needed to. We hopped on a plane. We flew back to San Diego. And within 36 hours, the store was open for an event there.
That was last week.
That was last week.
Yeah.
So
And that was last week.
We're officially at the spearhead of the story. The store is officially opened.
Yeah.
We are open in San Diego. Like I said, it's that Wicked Warehouse. We have an entire store with the new collection we released at Art Basel, connected to an entire lounge. The lounge looks down into the crowd.
Really?
Where it's almost like we say, it's like if Volcom had a skate store in a skate park at the time.
Back in the day.
Perfect for you guys.
We're like,
perfect.
We're right in there. Of course, it totally aligns with our brand.
So it's open whenever the venue's open?
So it's open whenever the venue's open.
Or whenever you want?
The venue has events there all the time. They'll throw events on Mondays, weekdays, weekends.
Are you guys open?
So we're
those, or you guys have more
all of the
specific
main
hours?
events that are open that bring people in will for sure be open. Any of the other time, it's an option for us to be open, and then we're doing appointment only the full anytime during the week. So this
You can
last
reach out to us at any point.
yeah, this last week we had our soft opening last weekend. This last week before we came out here for this weekend, we did multiple appointment showings each day. We had people coming through to set up appointments to shop. So it's cool because we can have people come in and it creates a more of a intimate personal experience. You're coming in,
so sick.
you're meeting the designers.
I can't wait to come check it out
you're meeting the
in person.
designers, the owners.
We got to get some drafts in there for sure.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that.
Not many places where
showroom.
the owners and the artists are the ones personally shopping with you and taking you to show you the space.
That's so cool.
It's a cool, intimate space for us to really like launch the brand in the next year. And it's amazing because artists come into the space to perform, and now we can walk them up to our store and style them. So
how do you how do people know you're there in the club? Like, is it advertised, or is it like, are you like, come on out?
So we bought some really crazy neon signs.
Did you?
Because we are upstairs, it's kind of like a loft. From downstairs in the venue, you can see the upstairs area.
Oh, cool.
We've covered the whole thing in African masks. So as you know, like we say tribal streetwear, we have a very tribal essence to the brand. Our whole theme for our store is it's like jungle drip. It's like streetwear designer brand meets like jungle rainforest cafe. There's like plants everywhere, vines hanging from the ceiling. We got
carpets.
We got 2 10-foot zebra carpets, big red leather couches. We dropped more than I could ever imagine I would have spent on plants. We have the whole thing filled with real plants. It's like a botanical garden in there.
It's really cool.
Birds of paradise and palm trees and monsteras and peace lilies and you name it. You name it. We probably have the plant in there right now. Yeah. So that's cool. It's for us. It's about creating the environment where you can feel what the brand is. You can only feel so much when you look at a website, when you look at an Instagram. But to feel what TAFARI World is, to step into our world, to step into our space and actually feel the tribal essence to it, the African mask, the zebra rugs, the plants, as much as we're selling a product, we're selling a feeling, an experience, and an energy. And I really believe that now that we have a store, you can feel that from the brand in a way that you couldn't before. So the future is very
another dimension.
Yeah, the future is very bright. The venue itself is expanding. They're already looking at expanding and building out a second big room in the back that we're speaking about helping with the design on and expanding our section. So I really believe there's gonna be a lot of future growth with that team and in that space. And as we're here for right now for Red Rocks this weekend. Yeah. We got the store up and running. Our first weekend we've ever put our best friends, our team members, Quabi and Hunter, 2 of the members from the tribe, in charge of running the actual store this weekend. So shout out to Quabi, shout out Hunter, 2 of our boys right now. And this is, like you said, scaling and expanding. This is our first weekend where we have a store. We have friends who are running the store, and we're in Colorado doing fits for Red Rocks.
We're on stage at Red Rocks, and I'm looking down at my phone, and the Shopify is buzzing because there's sales going through at the store.
It's a great feeling.
We're states away on stage, doing fits. I mean, it's full circle. I mean, from being there at Red Rocks on stage for Boogie T, thinking to ourselves, it's actually working. Fast forward, we're doing our next fit at Red Rocks while the Shopify is popping off on the store, and I'm seeing sale after sale go through. I mean, it's just, it's hard to put into words.
If you told me at the first Red Rocks, hey, your next Red Rocks fit, you're going to be leaving your store to your buddies and they're going to be running it while you're here, I would have said, for sure, dude. Like,
man, that's a lot of progress in 1 year too, or
it's
a couple. Or
it's been since the first Red Rocks
to this one.
That was 2023. So we're only 2 years out.
Yeah, no, you guys are
Yeah.
moving fast
2
in the
years
right
right now.
direction.
We're finally hitting that exponential growth. We spent so many years building the foundation of the brand that now it feels like we have the foundation and the base to really
Solid
to launch.
foundation.
You know, we
Yeah.
have the launch pad now.
Yeah.
You know, we have the ability to really now take it to where we want to go. Now it's about us just continuously learning how to be better businessmen and how to, alongside our artistry, step into the roles that we need to be to run this business successfully and actually grow into what it takes to be a CEO of a global brand. And, you know, I have all the faith in the world in both Patrick and myself that we're going to have what it takes to run this thing, and faith in our partner Hugel, and my parents have been partners since the beginning. And I couldn't stand stronger in my belief for this vision, this team, this tribe, the artists like yourself that we align with, that we feel so connected to. And
Yeah.
I know the future's bright and we're just warming up.
I feel it too.
How'd you like Red Rocks? You have fun?
Oh, it was great, dude.
Yeah?
It was awesome.
It was cool to have you there,
Yeah.
just to be able to know
I
that,
love
like,
Michelle's music, dude.
Yeah.
He's got like a nice vibe.
yeah, amazing. It's very positive, very uplifting.
Yeah.
Just different. Yeah.
Bumped into the homie from the gym there.
Hey, let's go. Let's
There you go.
You run into
Shout out
everybody doing
Cody.
Red Rocks.
Shout out
Saw you
Cody.
there.
Hey.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
man,
you
I'm
know?
so proud of you guys. It's really been great to see your growth over the years. Like first time we met 10 years ago, man. Like,
That's
you know,
insane.
briefly, and then
Yeah.
just to see you guys grow and see the brand and see you on TV or not TV, but like on
Screens.
content, big
Yeah,
screens,
yeah, yeah.
dude. Like last night at Red Rocks.
Yeah.
It was sick. I got a picture. We saw your shirt on the big screens, dude.
What
It's
a
sick.
vibe, dude.
special,
It's such a
dude.
cool vibe. And, you know, for us sharing these moments, you know, with each other, with yourself, it's what it's all about. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I'll never forget telling you, like, in the parking lot of Ziggy's, like, bro, I'm working on this brand. I'm moving to LA next month. Like, what's your shoe size? Like, I'm going to get you some kicks. And I'll never forget, I whipped out my phone to show you paintings. I showed you one of my paintings, and you looked at me and you looked at me and you said, oh, you have a very strong voice you're trying to express through your work. And I'll never forget you saying that. And it was this cool moment for me where I was like, hell yeah. I was like, that Robertson thinks I got a strong voice in my work. I was like, that's dope. I was like, yeah. And I'll never forget, like,
so
you know, you
cool.
hear certain things you'll never forget. I'll never forget you telling me that. And I was
Wow.
like 21, 22 years old. And fast forward, here we are in your podcast, right? Here we are doing
Dude,
the thing with you guys, and seeing you
inspirational
consistently,
story, man.
seeing you
It's really
consistently
awesome.
wear the drip makes us so
no, I
happy,
fucking
you know,
love it,
like,
dude. It's
we love
it's
it, bro.
like up my alley too, with all
Yeah,
the
of
African
course.
animals, and it's like perfect.
I mean, we
love
use your work every day in our life, whether it's hanging on my neck.
You got to do what you love, and I'm glad you had that pivotal moment where you're like, I can't go through with this. Like, you saw yourself in 10 years not being totally happy, I guess. Or,
And then I saw individuals like yourself, successful,
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's
doing what
pretty-
they love, and it
there's a lot
inspired
of
me.
pressure on people to
Yeah.
get a job and just go into the system, and like,
The same inspiration that I saw in you when I looked over and I was 19, I thought to myself, I don't want to do this. I don't see myself doing this. And then I looked at artists like yourself, who I was inspired by, who I dreamed of one day even owning a piece from, let alone
Yeah,
calling
thank
one of my
you.
best friends. At that time, I was just like, dude, one day I'll own a rapper.
fuck,
And at
dude.
that time in life, I would look up artists like yourself and I'd think to myself, damn, he's doing it. Why can't I? He's successful. So why couldn't I be? He's doing what he loves. He's doing his art. And that feeling that I would feel when I looked at an artist like yourself, I wanted to brand that. I wanted to figure out, how do I create a brand? Because when I was younger and I was into style, if there was a brand that embodied this message and this mission, I might have pursued it way earlier. It might not have taken me all the way to the niche space of glass blowing to do it. But because I was lucky, or not lucky, blessed enough to find this space of glass and have that awakening, it changed my life. Not everyone is going to have the opportunity to find this niche space that helps awaken them. So that's why I wanted to brand it, because if this brand can embody that and can push this message on a little bit more of a kind of a widespread market than a niche space like glass blowing, hopefully there's a creative out there one day who is in the same space I was, trying to gain the confidence, and how I looked up at you and these artists who are making it and thought I could do that one day, and now I'm doing it. There's artists that are going to look over
living
at TAFARI
proof.
World.
You guys right here. Follow your
Living
dreams.
proof of going.
You guys explained how hard you had to work to
Never
get there
stop.
too.
Oh,
Like,
we grind
no
and
sleep for 3
and
weeks.
our work is just starting. Like,
Yeah.
like, don't get me wrong, we've grinded, but what's to come with scaling this? We got way more gnarly work to come than we did when we were in LA driving Ubers and grinding, trying to put this on.
For
So
sure. We thought that was the hard
yeah, we thought we people always say, hey, the hard part's done. No, the risky part's done. The part where you're risking it all to see if it's going to work. Like, we're still working hard, but I don't feel like I'm risking anymore. Like, I know it's going to work. Like, we have enough confirmed momentum, and I have enough belief in my soul, mind, spirit, heart, whatever you want to call it. I know this is going to work, that now it is the hard work, but you aren't hard work in the game. It's not the gamble anymore.
no longer
like,
the unknown.
It's not the unknown gamble of like, are we grinding our ass off? Is this even going to work?
We wake up in the morning and we know we have a store.
Yeah, I wake up and I'm like,
wow,
our shit's popping. We got a fucking store right now. Sales are coming in. How do we scale that? How do we grow that? How do we get better? How do we improve ourselves every day? How do we work on our health? How do we work on our mindset? How do we continuously sharpen ourselves? And like you said, keep chipping out way to, get to where we need to be. So like I said, this whole thing started with Inspire to Create. We were inspired enough by artists like yourself to go and do it. Now we're trying to spread that same message through what we're doing, through TAFARI World, through Inspiring to Create. That's why it's TAFARI. That's why it's He Who Inspires. That's why it's tap into the frequency. That's why it's what we are and who we are and what we're doing. And if this message can get out to any creatives out there in the world who are having that block and having that little creative, back and forth of if I'm going to pursue it or not, this is your message that you have to go pursue it. And whether it becomes a full-blown career or just a passionate creative hobby, you need to go create. You need to be an artist. We're all artists. It doesn't matter what form or medium. Everyone has to go and tap into their frequency.
Absolutely. To everybody who's been along for the ride so far, tapped in with us since the beginning, we have so much love for you guys. And to everybody finding out about us today, welcome to TAFARI World. Come visit us. Come visit us at the store.
So the website is
go create.
TAFARIWorld.com.
Okay.
That's going to be our website and our Instagram.
Yep. TAFARIWorld.com.
If you are coming to San Diego and you'd like to come to the store, shoot us a DM on our Instagram, TAFARI World. We'll set up a private appointment for you to come shop. We'll show you around, tell you about the brand.
Come to an event. Come to an event.
Paintings. We have events there at the venue every weekend. We can bring people into the event who are coming to shop. So
just reach out.
Shoot us a DM.
Excellent. I'll be seeing you guys late September.
Absolutely.
Do it.
Yep. Awesome, guys.
Always a pleasure, brother.
That was an awesome pod. I appreciate you guys coming in.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for having us.
So awesome to see you guys successful and
looking forward to the next time, honestly.
Start being entrepreneurs and creatives. Yeah. It's really awesome. Yep.
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers to the future.
Hell yeah.
And tap into the frequency.
All right,
the frequency, baby.
Thank you.
Let's go. Peace.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Robertson Stash podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to support us, please hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, we want to hear from you. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to reach out. Hit the website, hit the link. We'll see you next time.